Chapter 590. Although the ancient god power in this heart of the ancient god is almost depleted, it is still a vast source of energy for you. It also contains the ancient god blood that can help you cultivate the ancient god skill. However, your current body is unable to withstand the power of my heart, so I sealed it. You can use the ancient god blood and power to refine your body. If you have the chance to become a 3-star or 4-star ancient god in the future, you will be able to refine it, Heavenly I King warned. Yiguchin nodded slightly. I am ashamed. Is there anything I can do for you, Senior? Yiguchin was a little ashamed to have accepted so many opportunities from Heavenly I King. You have contributed greatly in suppressing the chaotic world demon ape clan. Moreover, you have become a 1-star ancient god. You can be considered as my successor. If you really want to, you can look for some secret lands of the ancient god clan when your cultivation level increases. You may be able to find something that can help me recover and awaken, Heavenly I King said. He was at the end of his life and the only way to survive was to fall into a deep sleep. If Yiguchin could find some secret lands of the ancient god clan and obtain some opportunities, he might be able to help Heavenly I King recover. I will remember this. Yiguchin nodded slightly. Heavenly I King had helped him a lot. Yiguchin was a person who would seek revenge for any enmity and repay any kindness. If there was a chance in the future, he would definitely find a way to help Heavenly I King recover. Oh yes, Senior Heavenly I King, I have a request. Yiguchin told Heavenly I King about his relationship with the barbarian tribe. No problem. The barbarian tribe is my descendant. Since you are my successor, you are naturally the king of the barbarian tribe. Anyone who disobeys you will be disobeying me. Don't worry and leave. No one can hurt you, Heavenly I King said. Thank you, Senior Heavenly I King. Yiguchin was completely at ease now. He had thought about how to escape if his identity was exposed after obtaining the sacred elixir. The first layer of protection was 100 Flower Child. However, although 100 Flower Child was a divine dwelling expert, there were many elders of the 5-element temple guarding the door of the ancient god. If 100 Flowers Child were to intervene, not only would she not be able to save Yiguchin, she might even be killed along with him. Therefore, when the ancient voice of the Heavenly Eyes monarch sounded in his mind, he was shocked. Yiguchin took the gamble. In the end, Yiguchin made the right bet. His harvest this time was too great. There was no need to mention the saint elixir he had obtained. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the 9 transformations of divine soul, and he was only a step away from the life and death threshold. He had also successfully become a 1-star ancient god through the practice of the ancient god tactics, and his power had increased tremendously. The current Yiguchin didn't even need to rely on external items to contend with life and death chamber experts, and even had the upper hand. Not to mention the fact that he had obtained the 4-star ancient god tactic, the Eye of the Hidden Void, the Heart of the Ancient God, and the Sealed Little Black Monkey. This time, Yiguchin could be said to be the one who had gained the most from the door of the ancient god. Alright, you can leave now. I will settle the matter of the barbarian tribe. Soon, I will enter a long slumber. Although this land has been destroyed, it can still be used for cultivation. The barbarian tribe outside is of my bloodline after all. If possible, treat them well. Heavenly Eyes monarch's tone was extremely tired. Senior, please rest assured. I will definitely think of a way to wake you up in the future. As for the barbarian tribe, I will also take care of them. Yiguchin cupped his fists slightly. Then, a vortex appeared beside Yiguchin. Yiguchin took a step forward and stepped out of the mysterious space. At the same time, in the tomb of the gods and devils, blood rained down and screams of agony could be heard incessantly. He didn't know how much time had passed, or how many people he had killed. Su Moyan only felt that time seemed to have stopped. In front of him was a sea of blood. Blood soaked his black clothes and blinded his eyes. The world in front of him was completely blood-red. However, in the sea of blood, Su Moyan seemed to see a beautiful figure in green appear in front of him and smile. Brother, don't feel any pressure. You have to bear it all alone. Brother, is it because of me that the whole family was destroyed? Am I a sinner? Brother, I also want to become stronger. I don't want to be a girl who only knows how to cry behind you. Su Moyin smiled slightly. However, in his field of vision, the beautiful figure in green suddenly turned into a murderous shadow and attacked. Die! Feng Xiaotian was covered in blood and his eyes were almost crazy. Su Moyin alone blocked the way. Not only were the holy sons and holy daughters unable to break through, more than 10 of them had died. This was simply unbelievable. Puchi! The blade in Feng Xiaotian's hand stabbed fiercely at Su Moyin. Su Moyin was dazed and his body moved to the side with difficulty. The blade stabbed into Su Moyin's shoulder. However, Su Moyin's lips curled into a cruel sneer as he grabbed the blade with one hand. You! Feng Xiaotian was stunned. You're the one who's going to die. Su Moyin grabbed the blade with one hand and blood flowed from the gaps between his fingers. His other hand held Mo Kuang and stabbed into Feng Xiaotian's heart. Puchi! Feng Xiaotian's blood spurted out. His eyes bulged and he fell to the ground unwillingly. Another Triple Crown champion had died. The remaining people present were all stupefied. They all looked at Su Moyin with gazes of shock and fear. Devil, this person is a devil. Mu Lanfang was still alive, but her mouth was full of blood. She had been seriously injured by Su Moyin. Whoosh! Su Moyin's figure rushed forward and almost teleported in front of Mu Lanfang. No! Mu Lanfang's beautiful face was filled with boundless fear and was almost distorted. Puchi! Mo Kuang swept out, and Mu Lanfang's beautiful head was sent flying. This person is too terrifying. Even Mu Lanyue's delicate body trembled slightly. She held back and did not make a move. She shrank to the side with Dragoness, Shui Rua, and Mu Zhongling. The rest of the saints and saintesses also made their move. All of you, go to hell. Su Moyin seemed to be possessed. Mo Kuang swept out and blood splattered. Everyone, let's fight together. The White Lion Saint, Black Tiger Saint, Mu Lanxuan, and the others were all covered in blood. But at this point, everyone had already gone crazy. Boom! 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 The remaining 7 or 8 saints and saintesses attacked at the same time. All kinds of weapons stabbed at Su Moyin from all directions. Su Moyin was already close to his limit and could not dodge even if he wanted to. Puchi! 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 7 or 8 saints and saintesses surrounded Su Moyin. 7 or 8 weapons pierced Su Moyin's shoulders, chest, abdomen, and legs. Su Moyin's entire body was like a sieve that had been pierced, and blood gurgled out. Other than his heart that was not injured, his other organs were almost all damaged. He's finally dead. The White Lion Saint panted heavily. However, Su Moyin took a deep breath. His blood-red eyes were filled with unwavering determination. As your brother, I will always be your most solid support, Su Moyin thought in his heart and then let out a long roar. Boom! His vitality burned fiercely again. Incomparably fierce vital energy surged out like a shockwave. Puchi! 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 Continuous sounds of vomiting blood rang out. The 7 or 8 saints and saintesses, including the lion and tiger saints, all vomited blood and flew backward. Die! 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 Su Moyin held Mo Kuang in his hand and burned his vitality crazily. One sword pierced the White Lion Saint's heart. Another sword pierced the Black Tiger Saint's head. Then, with a swing of the sword, Mu Lanxuan's head splattered with blood. Plop, plop, almost in an instant, the 7 or 8 saints and saintesses all turned into corpses and fell to the ground. The entire mausoleum was dead silent. Chapter 591. Plop, Su Moyin knelt down on one knee, using Mo Kuang to support his body. His head was bowed due to exhaustion. Blood gathered at the tip of his nose and dripped down. His body was also covered with large and small bloody holes. Blood kept flowing out of his wounds. Silence. Because of Su Moyan's massacre, the originally noisy mausoleum became incomparably quiet. Mu Lanue and the others hid in a corner of the tomb. They were shocked beyond words. What kind of belief supported the black-clothed youth to fight to such an extent? Little sister, I'm useless. I didn't have the ability to help you deal with that enemy. That's why you're hiding in a corner of the Saint Origin dynasty. I'm useless, this is the only thing your elder brother can do. Su Moyan closed his eyes and maintained the posture of kneeling on one knee, supporting himself with his sword. As the power of the life-devouring secret technique faded, his aura also disappeared like the ebbing tide. As his aura dissipated, so did his life force. Su Moyan's life was like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished. At this moment, the space behind him suddenly distorted. Yiguchen's figure rushed out with the little black monkey squatting on his shoulder. Sigh, I'm still too slow. Yiguchen's heart tightened when he saw Su Moyan kneeling on the ground with one knee and completely lifeless. He quickly moved and appeared in front of Su Moyan. Yiguchen. Mu Lanue and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Yiguchen to come out again. And Tuoba Shang, who went in with him, didn't appear. Could it be? Thinking of this, Mu Lanue, Mu Zhongling, and the others looked at each other and saw the horror in each other's eyes. Tuoba Shang was dead. That was the only explanation. Mu Lanue couldn't imagine how Yiguchen defeated the transformed Tuoba Shang. But now, Yiguchen didn't have time to care about Mu Lanue. He checked Su Moyan's aura with a heavy expression. If Su Moyan really died, even if Su Jianxue woke up, how would Yiguchen face it? He didn't expect Su Moyan to actually do it. With his own strength, he blocked the attacks of all the holy sons and holy daughters, and even killed them all. Without any hesitation, Yiguchen took out a sage-to-be healing pill from the bronze furnace and fed it to Su Moyan. Although Su Moyan did not wake up, his breathing had stabilized slightly. But that was all. Su Moyan's life was still hanging by a thread, and his life was like a dying candle. Semi-saint medicines are useless. He has burned his own life force and forcibly pushed himself to the life and death challenge realm. This kind of life force is hard to be healed with pills. At this moment, Mu Lanue and the others stepped forward. Vitality? Yiguchen frowned. In the next moment, Yiguchen's eyes flashed. He stretched out his hand and placed it on Su Moyan's chest. Within Yiguchen's body, the sealed heart of the ancient god began to thump. Drops of ancient god blood began to seep out from Yiguchen's palm and into Su Moyan's body. In the blink of an eye, Su Moyan's life force, which was hanging by a thread, completely stabilized. Vaguely, his declining life force and qi and blood actually began to slowly recover. How is this possible? Mu Lanue and the others were dumbfounded. Vitality wasn't something that could be restored with a simple pill. But Yiguchen had done it. How could they know that Yiguchen had the ancient god heart and a large amount of ancient god blood? The ancient god clan's blood contained a lot of vitality. It was also because of this that the ancient god clan's body was so strong and full of vitality. Even Heavenly I King wouldn't die after such a heavy injury. He would only fall into a deep sleep. Therefore, the ancient god blood could be used to heal Su Moyan. Not only that, after the baptism of the ancient god blood, Su Moyan's strength would be even stronger after he recovered. He would probably enter the life and death threshold directly. This time, for Su Moyan, it's a matter of life and death. It's not strange for him to break through the life and death threshold, Yiguchen thought to himself. After stabilizing his injuries, Yiguchen supported the unconscious Su Moyan and prepared to leave the tomb of the gods and devils. Yiguchen, are you sure you want to leave now? Mu Lanue looked at Yiguchen and asked. At this moment, outside the tomb of the gods and devils, the Five Elements Temple and the elders of the various clans were probably gathered together, waiting for Yiguchen to leave. If I don't leave, are we going to stay here forever? Yiguchin said. Squeak, squeak. The little black monkey on Yiguchin's shoulder squeaked in agreement. Hey, what a cute little monkey. Shui Rua looked at the little black monkey, her big eyes sparkling. Yiguchin smiled faintly. If Shui Rua knew the little black monkey's true identity, she would probably be scared out of her wits. After all, this was the legendary chaotic demon ape of the barbarian tribe. Hey, if you go out now, you'll definitely die, Mulanua said. It's okay. Yiguchin's face was indifferent. Mulanua's face changed slightly, but she didn't say anything more. She actually wanted to ask whether Yiguchin had received the inheritance of the ancestors after entering the mysterious space. However, this kind of question was too sensitive, so Mulanua didn't want to ask. As for what kind of punishment they would receive after leaving the tomb of the gods and devils, they could only leave it to fate. Yiguchin, you really got me into trouble this time. Mulanua sighed. Oh, if you want to draw a line with me now, that's fine too. At least the Five Elements Temple won't blame you too much. Yiguchin's gaze was inexplicable as he suddenly said. Of course, you guys can do that too. Yiguchin turned to Dragon Girl, Wooden Bell Spirit, and the others. Yiguchin, what kind of person do you think I am? Dragon Girl's eyebrows furrowed as she walked to Yiguchin's side with her hands on her waist, grinding her teeth. Don't forget, you're still my husband. Dragon Girl pretended to tease him. But whether she was really teasing him or not, perhaps only she knew. Yiguchin's eyes revealed a trace of gratification. Shui Rua is also on the side of Big Brother Dugu, no, Big Brother Yiguchin. Shui Rua was very simple. She would be good to whoever was good to her. What do you think, little monkey? Shui Rua took the little black monkey and rubbed its little head. Squeak squeak, squeak squeak. The little black monkey squeaked, causing Shui Rua to giggle. The Wooden Bell Spirit's expression kept changing. Before Yiguchin's identity was exposed, the Wooden Bell Spirit did indeed want to be on good terms with him. When Yiguchin revealed his identity as Five Crown King, the Wooden Bell Spirit was glad that it was on good terms with Yiguchin. But now, Yiguchin's identity as an outsider was exposed. Even if he was Five Crown King, his final fate was to be stripped of his ancestral totem and be punished to death. If it was related to Yiguchin, then the Wooden Bell Spirit would also suffer. I'm sorry. The Wooden Bell Spirit clenched her teeth and revealed a trace of embarrassment. She was the most talented saintess of the Wood Tribe. She couldn't be punished because of her relationship with Yiguchin. Okay. Yiguchin nodded and did not say anything. He did not blame the Wooden Bell Spirit for anything. This was her freedom of choice. Then what about you? Yiguchin looked at Mulanua. Mulanua was even more conflicted than the Wooden Bell Spirit. This was because she could bring Yiguchin into the gate of ancient God from the beginning to the end. Dragoness, you little girl, you've killed me. Mulanua bitterly smiled again. Dragoness shrugged indifferently. Anyway, she had already thrown caution to the wind. Forget it. This saintess is unlucky. Anyway, I can't escape the Five Elements Temple's arbitration. Mulanua smiled and shook her head. She still stood beside Yiguchin. Don't worry, nothing will happen to you. Yiguchin said calmly. Sigh. Mulanua bitterly smiled. She only took it as Yiguchin's comforting words. Such a big thing happened. The saintess and saintess were all slaughtered. Even Tuoba Shang was dead. How could this kind of thing be let off easily? Mulanua was already thinking about how the Five Elements Temple would punish them. Yiguchin probably could not escape death. As for the Wooden Bell Spirit, she was slightly relieved. Fortunately, her relationship with Yiguchin was not as close as Dragoness Mulanua. Otherwise, it would be hard for her to escape. I'm sorry, Yiguchin. It's not that I don't want to go through thick and thin with you, but your future is already set. You will be sentenced to death by the Five Elements Temple. The wooden bell spirit secretly thought. She pulled a large distance away from Yiguchen to show the boundary. Yiguchen, on the other hand, was the most relaxed one among them. The Heavenly Eye Monarch's promise should not be false. No matter what, would the Five Elements Temple dare to go against the will of the Heavenly Eye Monarch? One must know that the legendary Five-Crown King of the barbarian tribe only received a part of the Heavenly Eye Monarch's inheritance. And he was the true successor of the Heavenly Eye Monarch. Moreover, Yiguchen also had something that the barbarian tribe could not resist and even went crazy for. That was the ancient god's blood. Chapter 592. Outside the tomb of the fiend gods, the atmosphere was so silent that it made one's chest feel stuffy. The scenes inside the mausoleum were displayed to the eyes of all the barbarians through the five-colored light screen. When Yiguchen entered the vortex through the ancient god's jade archive, even Wan Yanlan was shocked. It was obvious that the vortex entrance was the true location of the tomb of the fiend god's ancestral inheritance. Now everyone understood that the door to the tomb of the fiend gods could be opened not because of Tuoba Shang's bloodline resonance, but because Yiguchen had the ancient god's jade archive, which was the key to opening it. This made the Tuoba family members look slightly embarrassed. Tuoba Outyen was especially proud. He had thought that his son had a strong ancestral bloodline and could even resonate and open the door. But now, it had nothing to do with Tuoba Shang. But when they saw Tuoba Shang enter the vortex entrance, the Tuoba family members breathed a sigh of relief. They knew how powerful Tuoba Shang had become after coming out of the life and death cave. But the mysterious place inside the vortex entrance could not be seen through the formation. Therefore, none of the powerful brute race warriors in the periphery knew what had happened in the ancestral land of inheritance. But they could still see what was happening inside the tomb. The scene of Su Moyan using the life-devouring secret technique to kill a group of saints and saintesses was also shown to everyone. When they saw Su Moyan kill more than 20 saints and saintesses by himself, the entire tomb of the fiend gods fell into a dead silence. Those saints and saintesses were the elites of the younger generation of the barbarians. If nothing unexpected happened in the future, they would all become elders or even patriarchs of the major tribes. But now, they were all dead. This kid is really hateful. When he saw the Golden Sun Saint die from a sneak attack, the Jin Patriarch's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This kid is the same as Yiguchen. His crimes are unforgivable, and he deserves to be hacked into pieces. When he saw Feng Xiaotian die, the Feng Patriarch trembled with anger. When the Lion and Tiger Saints died, the Barbarian Patriarch also felt like his organs were burning. As for First Elder Wan Yanlan, his face had already sunk to the bottom, and killing intent surged in his heart. Yiguchen, Su Moyan. Just two martial artists at the peak of the Divine Soul Realm had caused their barbarian race to suffer such heavy losses. One of them had obtained the inheritance of the barbarian race's most precious Five-Crown King. One of them had almost slaughtered half of the younger generation of the barbarian tribe. But the most shocking thing was when Yiguchen walked out of the vortex. Tuoba Outyen rubbed his eyes, thinking that he was seeing things. The person who walked out of the whirlpool wasn't Tuoba Shang, but Yiguchen. How is this possible? All the barbarian race experts were shocked. Is Tuoba Shang dead? It can't be. Tuoba Shang hid his cultivation base. His true strength is only at life and death challenge realm. Some of the Tuoba family members looked at each other. No, how could this be? The body of the Tuoba family's supreme elder was trembling. Tuoba Shang was the Tuoba family's only hope. If Tuoba Shang had obtained the ancestors' inheritance, then the Tuoba family would undoubtedly become the true leader of the barbarian race, and would unify the barbarian race and the Five Elements Temple. But now, the one who had appeared was Yiguchen. What was even more surprising was that Yiguchen had taken the initiative to walk out of the demonic god tomb. This made the eyes of all the barbarian race experts turn red. Seizing the opportunity and killing the barbarian saint and saintess was one thing, but he actually walked out of the tombs so brazenly. Did he really think that the barbarian race experts and the Five Elements Temple didn't exist? Yiguchin, you're dead. No matter what, you can't live. On the water race's side, Mo Tao's face was twisted with joy. So what if Yiguchin was strong? So what if he had obtained the ancestors' inheritance? If he deserved to die, he would still die. Mo Tao couldn't wait to see Yiguchin suffer an inhumane punishment. However, just as all the barbarian race experts were paying attention to Yiguchin, who was walking out of the whirlpool, only Wan Yanlan noticed a small detail. The demonic qi in the demonic god tomb is actually slowly dissipating. Wan Yanlan thought to himself. But right now, the most important thing was still Yiguchin. If Yiguchin had really obtained the ancestors' inheritance, then no matter what, Wan Yanlan couldn't let Yiguchin go. In front of the entrance of the demonic god tomb, all the barbarian race experts, including the elders of the Five Elements Temple, formed a semicircle. Not to mention that Yiguchin was only at the 9 transformations of the spirit. Even if he was at the divine dwelling stage, he still wouldn't be able to escape. Tap tap tap. The sound of footsteps came from the entrance of the demonic god tomb. Under everyone's gaze, the figures of Yiguchin and the others finally appeared. Yiguchin supported the unconscious Su Moyan, the little black monkey squatting on his shoulder. Mu Lanyue, Long Nu, and Shui Rua walked side by side with Yiguchin. Only the wooden bell spirit, who came out at the back, was a large distance away from Yiguchin. When she walked out, the wooden bell spirit even said, although Zhong Ling joined the Mu Lanyue family, I didn't know that Dugu Wubai was Yiguchin. If I knew, I wouldn't be with him. The wooden bell spirit hurriedly distanced herself and sighed inwardly. She had a good impression of Yiguchin, but unfortunately, Yiguchin was an outsider. He was destined to die. Yiguchin glanced at the wooden bell spirit and didn't say anything. Wooden bell spirit, come over. The patriarch of the wood race hurriedly waved his hand. The wooden bell spirit moved lightly and rushed back to the wood race camp. Seeing the gloomy faces of Wan Yanlan and the others, the wooden bell spirit rejoiced. Fortunately, I distanced myself in time, or else I wouldn't be able to escape the arbitration of the Five Elements Temple. Mu Lanyue, Long Nu, you've miscalculated this time. The wooden bell spirit looked at Mu Lanyue and the others with pity. If she had distanced herself from Yiguchin in time, the punishment might have been lighter. But now, she was still with Yiguchin. Wasn't she digging her own grave? Swoosh! A red light flashed to Yiguchin's side. It was the divine condor. Little Yi, we're in trouble this time. The divine condor had been hiding in the crowd and only rushed to Yiguchin's side when he appeared. Yiguchin looked around and couldn't help but smile. This was not a small lineup. Wan Yanlan, Lord Tian Barbarian, and more than 10 experts of the Five Elements Temple. The patriarchs of the tribes were all Divine Palace Realm experts. Even some of the elders were Heaven and Earth Spirit Bridge Realm experts. It could be said that even if the experts of the 7 major forces gathered together, they wouldn't be able to take advantage of such a lineup. How can I make so many experts of the barbarian race welcome me with such a lineup? Yiguchin smiled. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression wouldn't change. Hearing Yiguchin's words, all the experts of the barbarian race were even more furious. Wait for you here. What a joke. Don't you know what you've done? The patriarchs and elders of the major tribes were so angry that their noses were almost crooked. The inheritance of the barbarian race was taken away by you. The saints and saintesses were killed by you. Now that you were in a desperate situation, you could still talk and laugh with such an attitude. The ignorant were really fearless. Wan Yanlan took a deep look at Yiguchin. Yiguchin's calm and indifferent temperament caused Wan Yanlan to have a trace of admiration. Yiguchin was a member of the barbarian race. Wan Yanlan would not hesitate to make him the young master of the barbarian race. But unfortunately, those who were not of the barbarian race would have different intentions. Wan Yanlan would never allow an outsider to obtain the inheritance of the barbarian race. He didn't directly attack Yiguchin, because Yiguchin was already a turtle in a jar. There was no possibility of escape. Mulanue, Dragon Girl, and the others, what do you mean by this? Chapter 593. This time, Yiguchin was able to enter the door of the ancient god. To a large extent, it was because he followed Mulanue. The Mulanue family could not escape the blame. However, if Mulanue and the others cut ties with Yiguchin, their punishment might be slightly reduced. But now, Mulanue and the others stood with Yiguchin. Their position was suspicious. Mulanue, come over here. Some elders of the Mulanue family shouted coldly. The patriarch, Mulanue, sighed deeply and looked slightly dejected. Mulanue bit her red lips with her pearly white teeth. Although her rationality told her that if she cut ties with Yiguchin now, she might be able to redeem some of the blame. However, Mulanue had a faint intuition. If she cut ties with Yiguchin, she would definitely regret it in the future. Moreover, Mulanue really could not do something like turning her back on him. Mulanue sighed deeply and did not move in the end. As for the dragon lady, she did not hesitate at all. She even provocatively took one of Yiguchin's arms, indicating that she would advance or retreat with Yiguchin. Shui Rua did the same. The patriarch of the water tribe's expression also changed, but he still did not say anything. Dragon lady, you're crazy, you must be crazy. In the water tribe's camp, the stormy wave saint clamored. Because he was not selected, he was not qualified to enter the door of the ancient god, but he followed to watch the ceremony. If there was one person who hated Yiguchin the most in the water tribe, other than Mo Tao, it was the stormy wave saint. Because the dragon lady was biased towards Yiguchin, the stormy wave saint also hated the dragon lady because of his love for her. Seeing that the dragon lady was still unrepentant, the stormy wave saint immediately jumped out. Dragon lady, you bitch, colluding with outsiders and still not repenting. You don't deserve to be the saintess of the water tribe. The stormy wave saint said in a vicious tone. The dragon lady's expression changed slightly. Although she knew that the stormy wave saint was not righteous, she did not expect him to be so sinister and shameless. Don't worry, he won't be able to hoot for long. Yiguchin's gaze was cold. Yiguchin had already decided that the dragoness was his friend. Since the raging wave sage wanted to make his presence known, then Yiguchin would let him know what regret was. The water tribe leader remained silent. But from the looks of it, he did not have much hope for Dragon Lady. Great Elder, don't waste your breath on this group of people. They are no longer fit to be the barbarian tribe's saintess. The most important thing now is to interrogate Yiguchin and see if he has received our ancestors' legacy, the Taishang elder of the Tuoba family said. Yes, there's also Shang, Yiguchin, where is Shang, Tuoba Outyen took a step forward, fully displaying the might of a divine dwelling stage expert. Tuoba Shang. He's dead, Yiguchin said calmly. As soon as he said this, the noisy atmosphere instantly stopped. Everyone's expression froze. Tuoba Shang could be said to be a legend of the younger generation of the barbarian tribe, a leading figure. Before Yiguchin's identity as the Five-Crown King was revealed, Tuoba Shang was almost the representative of the barbarian tribe. But now, Tuoba Shang was dead. No, impossible, how could Shang die? His cultivation level has reached the life and death threshold, how could he be killed by you? Tuoba Outyen's expression changed drastically, as if 10,000 thunderbolts were rumbling in his heart. No. Tuoba Outyen's eyes were blood red, and uncontrollable anger spewed out from his 7 orifices. Die, you little bastard. A burning anger rushed to his head. Tuoba Outyen's hair stood on end, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He really could not bear it, especially when Yiguchin said that he was dead in an incomparably calm and indifferent tone. Tuoba Outyen simply wanted to cut Yiguchin into pieces. Die. Tuoba Outyen's palm pressed down, wanting to smash Yiguchin's body into pieces. The means of a divine palace expert were terrifying. Under this palm, Yiguchin did not have the strength to resist at all. This scene could be said to be beyond everyone's expectations. Tuoba Outyen's attack was too sudden, and there was no way to stop it. At this moment, sparkling and translucent petals suddenly fell from the void, and each petal was enough to easily kill a life and death threshold expert. Boom! 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 Tuoba Outyen's attack was blocked by the petals that filled the sky. At this moment, a petite figure suddenly appeared beside Yiguchen, pulled Yiguchen's arm, and said in a low voice, "Kid, let's go." After saying this, the petite figure wanted to bring Yiguchen away. But at this moment, Wan Yanlan's face was cold. He smashed the dragon-headed walking stick in his hand on the ground. In an instant, broken runes appeared in the tomb of the fiend gods. Although they were somewhat incomplete, they produced an extremely strong binding force. A barrier also spread out from the formation, enveloping the surroundings of the tomb of the fiend gods. No matter what, I'm still the first elder of the Five Elements Temple. You want to take someone away in front of me? You're not putting me in your eyes. Wan Yanlan's tone was indifferent and cold. Damn it, this old bastard can actually use the formation of the tomb of the fiend gods. The petals that filled the sky dissipated, and a petite figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. She was dressed in a colorful gauze, with 2 pigtails. Her skin was sparkling and translucent, and her eyes were big and bright. She was a cute little girl like a porcelain doll. But her voice was unusually old and hoarse. This, even Tuoba Outyen, who was drowning in anger, was taken aback. The rest of the barbarian tribe elites were also shocked. They never thought that the one who could block Tuoba Outyen's attack would be a little girl. A divine dwelling stage expert at such a young age, who would believe it? So it's the master of the Rhinoceros Divine Palace, 100-Flower Child. I didn't expect you to be hiding in the ancient god door of my race. Wan Yanlan's face darkened. He didn't expect that the ancient god door of the barbarian race's sacred land would hide a divine dwelling stage expert from the 7 great forces. 100-Flower Child's little face darkened. She had planned to take action as quickly as lightning, and directly take Yiguchen away. But she didn't expect that Wan Yanlan would activate the formation of the Tomb of the Fiend Gods and seal them here. Although the formation was incomplete, it was difficult for 100-Flower Child to break through in a short period of time. Not to mention now, Wan Yanlan wouldn't give her a chance to break through. What, this girl is the master of the Rhinoceros Divine Palace? How is this possible? She looks so young, but she's an old monster. How terrifying. Some barbarian experts, looking at 100-Flower Child's beautiful and cute little face, and then hearing the old and hoarse voice, felt their hair stand on end. 100-Flower Child clenched her fists tightly, her delicate body trembling. Seeing this, Yiguchen said, "Elder, don't worry, we have already obtained the reverse origin fruit. Elder's illness will certainly be cured." 100-Flower Child's expression eased slightly, but she still said, "The problem now is no longer the reverse origin fruit, but whether we can get out alive." Although 100-Flower Child was a divine dwelling stage expert, there were nearly 20 divine dwelling stage experts here. It was impossible to escape. But Yiguchen's expression was relaxed, as though he didn't care. Tuoba Outyen's eyes were still blood-red. With 100-Flower Child present, he couldn't kill Yiguchen alone. So he said, "Great Elder, there's no need to talk to them anymore. Just capture this boy, force him to reveal the inheritance of our ancestors, and then cut him into pieces." "That's right, Great Elder, there's no need to hesitate. Even if this boy dies 10,000 times, it won't be enough to quell the anger of the barbarian race," the Great Elder of the Tuoba family also said. Wan Yanlan nodded. Even with 100-Flower Child present, it would be easy to capture and kill Yiguchen. "Yiguchen, if you hand over the inheritance of our ancestors, you may be able to die less easily," Wan Yanlan said indifferently. "Ha!" Yiguchen smiled faintly. "If any of you attack today, you will undoubtedly die." His words made everyone's expression change. Chapter 594. Yiguchen must be crazy. He must be crazy. This was the common thought of all the barbarians. Given the current situation, there was no need to mention a mere 100 flowers child. Even if the divine palace experts of the 7 major forces came together, it was not realistic to save Yiguchen. The Stormy Wave Saint, Mo Tao, and others who had a grudge against Yiguchen all sneered. Everyone thought that Yiguchen had lost his mind. Even Mulanue, Long Nu, and others gave Yiguchen a strange look. What did Yiguchen have to rely on to say something like that? Boy, I'm afraid even I can't do anything this time. 100 Flowers Child sighed. She thought that Yiguchen relied on her, a divine palace expert, so she spoke. Feeling the strange, sneering, and mocking looks around, Yiguchen shook his head. Why did no one believe him when he told the truth? Yiguchen, I'm going to tear you apart. Tuoba Outyen couldn't bear it anymore, and his eyes were bloodshot. The pain of losing his son, coupled with Yiguchen's arrogant words, made Tuoba Outyen want to tear him to pieces. Boom! Tuoba Outyen attacked again. Wan Yanlan didn't stop him, but stared at 100 Flowers Child. If 100 Flowers Child attacked, Wan Yanlan naturally wouldn't stand by and do nothing. Little bastard, let's see if you can still say such words after I kill you. Tuoba Outyen stretched out a hand, and the totem power turned into a huge palm, grabbing at Yiguchen. Under this attack, even a heaven and earth spirit bridge expert could only obediently be restrained. In the face of this attack, Yiguchen looked indifferent. He slowly took out the ancient god's jade archive. The little black monkey on his shoulder squeaked, and seemed to be quite hostile to Tuoba Outyen. It's not your turn to attack. Yiguchen smiled faintly. There were only 2 chances to unseal the chaos demonic ape, so how could Yiguchen waste it in such a place? Since Heavenly Eyes King had promised that he would be fine, there was no need for him to worry. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Yiguchen had no choice but to obediently surrender. The ancient god's jade archive in Yiguchen's hand seemed to resonate with some kind of existence. Endless 5-colored radiance spread out, causing the entire tomb of the gods and demons to violently tremble. What's going on? All the barbarian race experts were alarmed. Then, in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Within the tomb of the gods and devils, endless golden light soared into the sky, finally transforming into a towering golden phantom that stood between the heavens and the earth. It seemed to have a terrifying might that could suppress the entire world. It was none other than Heavenly Pupil Monarch. Everyone stood rooted to the ground, as if they had been struck by lightning. Even First Elder Wan Yanlan's body trembled as he felt a supreme pressure from his bloodline. Sen. Ancestor, it's the ancestor of the barbarian race. Wan Yanlan's old face revealed an incomparable shock. The legendary ancestor of the barbarian race had appeared in front of everyone for the first time. However, what was more shocking was not the appearance of Heavenly Eye King's phantom. Instead, it was Heavenly Eye King's phantom that stretched out an arm, a huge palm that seemed to cover the sky. The target was Tuoba Outyen, who had attacked Yiguchen. What? What is this? No. Tuoba Outyen turned pale with fright. He felt as if he was an ant in the palm of someone else. Heavenly Eye King's phantom stretched out his palm and directly grabbed Tuoba Outyen in his hand. Shocking. Stunned. Unbelievable. All the elders of the 5 Elements Temple's Elders Guild were dumbfounded. What was going on? As the ancestor of the barbarian race, the Golden Phantom did not attack Yiguchen. Instead, it grabbed Tuoba Outyen, who was about to attack Yiguchen. It was ridiculous that Tuoba Outyen was so arrogant and wanted to capture Yiguchen. In the blink of an eye, he had become an ant in the palm of someone else's hand. Ancestor Phantom, why? Tuoba Outyen was incoherent. As a divine dwelling expert, he was a top existence in the Saint Origin Empire and the barbarian race. Tuoba Outyen had never experienced such a feeling. It was as if he had become an ant that could be easily crushed. To think that there would be someone like you among the descendants of my bloodline. How dare you attack my successor? You deserve to die. Heavenly I King's phantom roared coldly. He clenched his fist. Poochie. Blood splattered. Heavenly I King's phantom slowly loosened his palm, and a bloody corpse fell to the ground. An expert of the divine dwelling stage had fallen. Gulp. It was unknown which divine dwelling expert swallowed a mouthful of saliva. A top expert of the divine dwelling stage was crushed to death with a single pinch. The impact was too shocking. Even Yi Guqin sighed. Heavenly I King was indeed a top saint expert. Even if it was just a phantom, he could easily crush a divine dwelling expert to death. And you also want to attack my successor? Heavenly I King's phantom's gaze fell on the Grand Elder of the Tuoba family once again. No, I didn't. The Grand Elder of the Tuoba family, who had clamored to capture and kill Yi Guqin, shrank his body and trembled like a sieve. You deserve to die. Heavenly I King's phantom stretched out his palm again. It was as if a golden dome of heaven was pressing down. No one would be able to escape from the grasp of this palm. No. The Grand Elder of the Tuoba family quickly retreated, wanting to escape. But how could he escape from Heavenly I King's palm? Boom! Heavenly I King grabbed the Grand Elder of the Tuoba family with one hand and closed his 5 fingers in a simple manner. The sound of a watermelon exploding rang out. The Grand Elder of the Tuoba family had fallen. In the blink of an eye, 2 divine dwelling experts of the Tuoba family had fallen. The entire tomb of the divinity and devil was dead silent. First Elder Wan Yanlan's old face was stiff as he stood there like a piece of wood. The faces of the Tuoba family members were pale. The fall of the strongest expert of their family could be said to be a fatal blow. The stormy wave saint's mouth was wide open as if he had lost his soul. Mo Tao's body was trembling non-stop, and his brain was about to stop working. Mu Lanyue, Long Nu, Shui Rua, and the others were also stunned. Their rosy little mouths were open in unison, and even their dumbfounded expressions were the same. Who could tell them what had happened in such a short period of time? You also want to attack my successor? Heavenly I King's phantom coldly turned to Wan Yanlan. Ancestor above, I don't have such thoughts. Wan Yanlan hurriedly knelt on the ground and prostrated himself in worship. This was the first elder of the 5 Elements Temple with the greatest authority and status. At this moment, he was crouching on the ground like a mouse, trembling in fear. If it weren't for your contribution in guarding the gate of the ancient god, your ending would be the same as those 2, Heavenly I King's phantom snorted coldly. Yes, thank you ancestor for your forgiveness. Wan Yanlan kept kowtowing. You are not begging me, but my successor for forgiveness, Heavenly I King's phantom said. This. Wan Yanlan's face stiffened. All the experts of the barbarian race also held their breaths. The first elder of the 5 Elements Temple was begging for forgiveness from an outsider youth. Chapter 595. The great elder of the 5 Elements Temple was the pillar of the barbarian tribe. He represented the dignity of the barbarian tribe. Yet, Wan Yanlan was begging Yi Guqin for forgiveness. In the eyes of the crowd, this was something inconceivable. Heavenly I King's shadow frowned and snorted. Wan Yanlan trembled. He looked at the corpses of Tuoba Out Yen and the great elder and made up his mind. He slowly walked to Yi Guqin. After taking a deep breath, Wan Yanlan prostrated himself on the ground and kowtowed. Yi Guqin, I hope you can forgive me for my previous rudeness. He really knelt down. All the barbarian tribe members had an indescribable feeling when they saw this. Mu Lanyue, Dragon Girl and the others covered their mouths with their hands. When had they ever seen the high and mighty first elder beg someone in such a submissive manner? 100 Flower Child was also stunned. She looked a little dazed. It seemed that she did not need to do anything. Yi Guqin could solve the problem by himself. Yi Guqin looked at Wan Yanlan calmly. He did not stop Wan Yanlan nor did he mock him. He was calm and composed. Get up. Yi Guqin said. He knew that Wan Yanlan had always wanted to kill him. However, Wan Yanlan was the great elder of the Five Elements Temple. If he was really killed by Heavenly Eye King, the Five Elements Temple would be in chaos and the entire barbarian tribe would be in turmoil. Yi Guchen was not hostile to the barbarian tribe. Moreover, the barbarian tribe was the descendant of Heavenly Eye King. Since Yi Guchen was the successor of Heavenly Eye King, he naturally did not want the barbarian tribe to fall into chaos. Wan Yanlan was the best candidate to guard the barbarian tribe. Wan Yanlan was surprised by Yi Guchen's calm tone. After all, he was determined to kill Yi Guchen just now. However, Yi Guchen did not make things difficult for him. Instead, he calmly asked him to get up. This made Wan Yanlan's sullenness and anger lessen a little. Heavenly Eye King's shadow looked at this scene and was secretly pleased. As expected of my successor, such a temperament is rare. Yi Guchen did not know that his casual actions had made the Heavenly Eye's monarch even more satisfied with him. After that, King Tian Tong said loudly, I am a 4-star ancient god from the ancient god tribe, King Tian Tong. I am also the ancestor of the Five Elements Brute tribe and the source of your bloodline. Yi Guchen has become my successor and he will become the new king of the Brute tribe. As soon as Heavenly Eye's king finished his words, all the barbarians were shocked speechless. But some barbarian race experts wanted to say something, but they immediately shut their mouths. They were afraid that Heavenly Eye's king would slap them to death if he was unhappy. When Heavenly Pupil King saw this, he sneered and said, I know what you are thinking. Although Yi Guchen is not a barbarian, he has inherited my bloodline. Moreover, without him, I would not have been able to awaken and suppress the chaotic demon ape. Tian Tong King said as he waved his hand. A golden light spread out and turned into a light screen. The light screen showed the battle in the mysterious place. It showed the scenes of Tuoba Shang using the devil fetus parasitic medium and awakening the chaotic demon ape. What? The demonic creature that was suppressed was awakened by Tuoba Shang. I thought it was Yi Guchen who awakened it. I did not expect Tuoba Shang to be the one who was demonized. When the scenes were shown, all the barbarians were shocked. Everyone from the Tuoba family felt their cheeks burning as they felt extremely ashamed. Tuoba Shang, who they thought was the hero, was the one who was demonized. On the contrary, Yi Guchen, who everyone thought had awakened the demonic creature with a vicious plot, was the one who awakened King Tian Tong and suppressed the demonic creature. In an instant, all the barbarians changed their view of Yi Guchen. If Yi Guchen had not been there, King Tian Tong would not have awakened. The Heavenly Eye Monarch would not awaken and the chaotic world demonic ape would be freed from the seal because of Tuoba Shang. The terrifying strength of the chaos demonic ape was seen by everyone through the light screen. Once the chaotic demon ape appeared, the entire barbarian tribe would have been destroyed in an instant. In this case, Yi Guchen was the real hero and savior of the barbarian tribe. Thank you for saving the barbarian tribe. Wan Yanlan did not want to kill Yi Guchen at this point. Wan Yanlan had done everything for the barbarian tribe. Since Yi Guchen had saved the barbarian tribe, Wan Yanlan would naturally be grateful to him. Remember, my successor, Yi Guchen, will be your king. If you go against it. King Tian Tong paused for a moment. A ray of golden light shot out from between his fingers and landed on Yi Guchen's ancient god Jade Archive. This ancient god's Jade Archive is the king's token. With this item, all of my descendants will be restrained. King Tian Tong's words changed the expressions of the experts of the barbarian tribe. In other words, the ancient god's Jade Archive in Yi Guchen's hands could control the blood descendants of King Tian Tong. Their lives and deaths were at his mercy. Yi Guchen, I'll leave the barbarian tribe to you. King Tian Tong's shadow gave a final warning before turning into a rain of light and dissipating. King Tian Tong's real body also fell into a deep slumber. The entire tomb of the gods and devils fell into silence after King Tian Tong's disappearance. The atmosphere at the scene was very oppressive. All the experts of the barbarian tribe felt their chests tighten and they found it difficult to breathe. In just a short 15 minutes, the situation had undergone an earth-shattering change. Yi Guqin, who was supposed to die, had become the successor of King Tian Tong and the king of the barbarian tribe. He could control their lives with a single thought. In fact, everyone would be restrained by Yi Guqin. Some experts of the barbarian tribe looked at the ancient god Jade archive in Yi Guqin's hands. If they could snatch it, however, these experts only dared to think about it. After all, they did not know that King Tian Tong had fallen into a deep slumber. Only Yi Guqin knew that King Tian Tong had fallen into a deep slumber. The great elder, Wan Yanlan, looked as if he had aged a few decades and he was lethargic. Great elder. King Tian Barbarian wanted to say something but stopped. Wan Yanlan was nearing the end of his life. His only wish was to choose a reliable successor to become the young master, inherit the Five Elements Temple, and protect the barbarian tribe. However, who would have thought that the situation would turn out like this? Yi Guqin was a little disloyal. For the sake of the 7 superpowers, he could exterminate the barbarian tribe at any time. Wan Yanlan's aged face revealed a trace of dejection. He walked slowly to Yi Guqin and knelt down again. Great elder. King Tian Barbarian and the other elders of the Five Elements Temple turned pale and there was sadness in their eyes. Yi Guqin, I know that you may not like the barbarian tribe. However, I don't have much time left and I just want the barbarian tribe to live on. Now that you have the ancient god Jade archive and control the life and death of the barbarian tribe, I hope that you can let the barbarian tribe live. If you hate the barbarian tribe, I am willing to appease your anger with my life. Wan Yanlan kowtowed and said. Great elder. Most of the barbarian tribe members choked with sobs. Even Mulanue, Dragon Girl, and the others' eyes turned red. Wan Yanlan had supreme authority and was rigid. He regarded the other tribes as heretics. However, after all, he was thinking for the barbarian tribe. It could be said that he had been protecting the barbarian tribe his whole life. Get up. If you die, who will take care of the barbarian tribe for me? Yi Guqin said as he shook his head. Wan Yanlan was stunned by his words. He did not expect Yi Guqin to say such words. However, in an instant, Wan Yanlan smiled bitterly and said, I am nearing the end of my life and my qi and blood are exhausted. I can't hold on for much longer, that's easy. I think the ancient god blood can help you extend your life, Yi Guqin said calmly. What? What did you say? Wan Yanlan completely lost his composure. He even grabbed Yi Guqin's sleeve and was extremely shocked. The ancient god blood should be useful, Yi Guqin said. After hearing this, all the barbarian tribe members' minds went blank. Only the ancient god blood was left. Chapter 596. What did the barbarian tribe desire the most? It wasn't divine weapons, totems or spiritual seals. It wasn't even sacred medicine. It was the ancestral bloodline, the blood of the ancient gods. For the barbarian tribe, the importance of the bloodline was unquestionable. The thicker the bloodline, the more powerful it was. It was also because of this that those with a slightly stronger bloodline could have 2, 3, or even 4 totems, becoming existences like the Triple Crown King or the Quadruple Crown King. However, most of the barbarian tribe had thin bloodlines. That was why they wanted to enter the tomb of the gods and demons to obtain the ancestral bloodline. Now, Yi Guqin said that he had the blood of the ancient gods. This was like a clap of thunder on a clear day, shocking all the barbarian tribe. Is this true? How many? Dozens of drops? Wan Yanlan's old face was slightly red because of excitement. He also wanted to obtain the blood of the ancient gods to extend his life. However, no one had been able to enter the tomb of the gods and demons, let alone obtain the blood of the ancient gods. Yi Guqin shook his head lightly. Wan Yanlan was slightly disappointed, but he still probed, then, do you have 10 drops? Yi Guqin shook his head again. Wan Yanlan gritted his teeth and asked anxiously, then, do you have 2 or 3 drops? If he didn't even have 2 or 3 drops, it wouldn't be very effective for Wan Yanlan. Yi Guchen shook his head again. Wan Yanlan was completely disappointed. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. His face was dejected and he didn't want to say anything more. Not far away, the wooden bell spirit heaved a sigh of relief. If Yi Guchen really had the blood of the ancient gods, wouldn't she be filled with regret? You can have as much blood of the ancient gods as you want. Yi Guchen's indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Wan Yanlan's old face froze. He suddenly turned his gaze to Yi Guchen. That kind of gaze was blazing to the extreme. Yi Guchen felt a little uncomfortable being stared at like that. He said again, I don't lack ancient gods' blood. You can have as much as you want. Yi Guchen was speaking the truth. He had the heart of ancient god given to him by the heavenly Eye monarch. He could produce ancient god blood endlessly without worrying about running out. Wan Yanlan's heart trembled fiercely. He almost stopped breathing. The faces of all the barbarian tribesmen turned red from nervousness. Seeing this, Yi Guchen slowly raised his hand and slightly activated the sealed ancient god's heart in his body. Drops of ancient god's blood were extracted and finally gushed out from his palm. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. In the end, the ancient god's blood that gushed out actually fused into a ball of sparkling and resplendent blood, like a melted red agate. Wan Yanlan's breathing almost stopped. Heaven Barbarian King widened his eyes and breathed heavily. Mulanua, Dragoness, and the others were flushed with desire. All the berserkers could feel the power contained within that ball of blood. That desire was hidden in their bones and could not be removed. Here you are, Yi Guchen separated a fist-sized ball of ancient god's blood and floated to Wan Yanlan. Wan Yanlan received it with trembling hands. He could not help but immediately integrate a small part of it into his body. In an instant. Boom! As if his dormant bloodline had been awakened, Wan Yanlan felt endless vitality gushing out from his old and decrepit body like a burning flame. Under the gaze of all the barbarian tribesmen, Wan Yanlan's stooped body slowly straightened up. His originally lethargic and aged face had also become a little younger. His gray hair had turned pitch black. Although Wan Yanlan still looked like an old man, he was hale and hearty. He did not look like he was in his twilight years at all. Good, good. Wan Yanlan cried with joy. After all, if possible, who would not want to live? Yi Guchen, no, young King Yi, from now on, you are the young king of the barbarian tribe. You will be the only king of the barbarian tribe and the leader of the 5 Elements Temple. Thank you for giving me a new lease of life. Wan Yanlan knelt on the ground and said sincerely. Previously, he had to kneel to Yi Guchen because of the power of Heavenly Eye's king. Now, Wan Yanlan was completely loyal to Yi Guchen and was willing to treat him as the young king of the barbarian tribe. Young King Yi, this title. Yi Guchen was speechless. He had the title of Sword Master Yi before. Now there was another young Master Yi. Your Highness, shouldn't you give me some of the ancient god's blood? Dragoness, who was beside Yi Guchen, narrowed her eyes and smiled slyly like a fox. Here you are. Yi Guchen would not be stingy with Dragoness and gave her a big lump of the ancient god's blood. Dragoness's face was full of joy as she smiled like a flower. If she could completely refine this lump of ancient god's blood, Dragoness was confident that her water dragon bloodline would improve and her cultivation would increase. Shui Rua blinked her eyes. Although she did not say anything, the desire in her eyes could not be erased. Here you are. Yi Guchen gave Shui Rua a lump of ancient god's blood. Thank you, big brother Yi. Shui Rua said obediently. Mulanua stammered. She was a little embarrassed and her face was slightly red. Although she stood on Yi Guchen's side in the end, she was still hesitant and was not as firm as Dragoness. Take it. Yi Guchen also gave Mulanua a lump of ancient god's blood. Thank you, Your Highness. Mulanua took the ancient god's blood excitedly. Her intuition was right. If she had drawn a line with Yi Guchen in the past, how could she have gotten the ancient god's blood now? Mulanue was very glad. She felt that insisting on being with Yiguchen was the best decision she had made in her life. At this moment, in the Wood Tribe's camp, the Wooden Bell spirit was extremely pale. An indescribable strong sense of regret rushed out of her heart like a poisonous snake. If she had stood firmly on Yiguchen's side at that time. If she had not drawn a line with Yiguchen at that time. Perhaps she would have had a share of the ancient god's blood. Wooden Bell spirit, don't you have some friendship with Yiguchen? See if you can get the ancient god's blood, even if it's just a few drops. It's very important to the Wood Tribe. The Wood Tribe's patriarch urged. The Wooden Bell spirit's face was burning, but she could not resist the patriarch's urging. In fact, she was also very eager for the ancient god's blood. If she had the ancient god's blood, her towering ancient tree totem would undergo a great transformation. The Wooden Bell spirit moved slowly, trying to get close to Yiguchen. As a result, many distinguished elders of the Five Elements Temple, including the Heaven Barbarian King and others, directly came forward and surrounded Yiguchen, pushing the Wooden Bell spirit to one side. The Wooden Bell spirit laughed at herself. How long had it been, and Yiguchen, who was going to die, had become the young king? At that moment, even the many elders of the Five Elements Divine Temple had drooling faces as they surrounded him. Your Highness, please give me the ancient god's blood. Young King Yi, as long as you give me a drop of the ancient god's blood, I will be your servant in the future. These divine-dwelling elders, who were usually high and mighty, were now shamelessly begging. The ancient god's blood was really too attractive. Not to mention prolonging one's lifespan, it was also good for the cultivation of totems and breakthroughs in cultivation. When Yiguchen saw this, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This was the effect he wanted. Although the Heavenly Pupil King had killed Tuoba Outyen and others, and had a deterrent effect. But the barbarian race would certainly not be convinced. Even if the Heavenly Pupil King revealed the truth later, and he became the hero who saved the barbarian race. But the barbarian race would not submit to him too much. At most, they would be grateful. And if he really wanted the barbarian race to submit, what should he do? It was very simple, benefits. Only benefits were the strongest bond. With benefits, there would be no betrayal. Therefore, Yiguchen was very wise. He directly gave Wan Yanlan benefits, so that Wan Yanlan, who had the highest authority, would listen to him. Then, as long as the Five Elements Temple submitted, it would not be too difficult to incorporate the rest of the barbarian race. Yiguchen did not intend to stay in the barbarian race in the future. So Yiguchen needed a stable, united and strong barbarian race that would not betray him. Chapter 597. Yiguchen had used an ingenious method to deal with the barbarian tribe. First, Tian Tong King had killed Tuoba Outyen and the other two divine-dwelling realm experts. Then, he had revealed the truth and made Yiguchen the hero of the barbarian tribe. Finally, he had taken out the ancient god's blood and offered benefits to make the barbarian tribe follow him. However, it would take some time to manage the barbarian tribe properly. Everyone, please be quiet, Yiguchen said loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding elders of the Five Elements Temple stopped making noise and stood quietly around Yiguchen. As for the many barbarian tribe experts further away, they also stopped making noise. From this, it showed that Yiguchen's plan was successful. The ancient god's blood is extremely rare, but I guarantee that everyone will have a fair chance to get it. I only have a few requests. First, those who fight against the seven forces in the future will not get the ancient god's blood. Second, those who contribute to the stability and unity of the barbarian tribe will get the ancient god's blood. Third, those who start a war will not get the ancient god's blood and will be punished. As soon as Yiguchen finished speaking, the expressions of all the barbarian tribe experts changed slightly. The barbarian tribe who supported peace were fine. After all, they did not want to start a war and only wanted to live a peaceful life. However, the barbarian tribe who supported war had changed their expressions. The Tuoba family's faces were ashen. They were the leaders of the pro-war faction and also the source of the war. Since Yiguchen had taken in the barbarian tribe, he naturally would not let the barbarian tribe fight against the 7 forces. Your Highness, do you mean that we, the barbarian race, can't fight back even if we are oppressed by the 7 major forces and the Saint Origin dynasty? One of the barbarian race experts from the pro-war faction gritted his teeth and asked unwillingly. All the barbarian tribe experts looked at Yiguchen. Even Wan Yanlan looked at Yiguchen with a trace of worry in his old eyes. Yiguchen now held the lifeline of the barbarian race in his hands. If he were to side with the 7 great forces, then the barbarian race would have a hard time in the future. Faced with such a sharp question, Yiguchen smiled and said, "Don't worry. Although I'm not from the barbarian tribe, I'm still the successor of King Tian Tong. Since you're his descendants, I'll take care of you and won't let you be bullied. Once the matter with the barbarian tribe is settled, I will bring the Great Elder and the others to northern Yang City of the Great Wasteland Prefecture and sign a peace treaty with the 7 great forces. From then on, there will be no more war between the 2 camps. I believe that the 7 great forces will not be willing to continue fighting with the barbarian tribe." Yiguchen's words made Mu Lanyue and the others feel slightly relieved. Mirambo heaved a sigh of relief. Wasn't this the result that the peace faction had been hoping for? Wan Yanlan's old face also relaxed a little. It seemed that Yiguchen wasn't on the side of the 7 great forces, but stood from a fair point of view to let both sides get along peacefully. Wan Yanlan wasn't part of the pro-war faction. It was only because of his relationship with Tuoba Shang that the 5 Elements Temple leaned towards the Tuoba family. Of course, the culprit who started the war this time can't be let off. The next moment, Yiguchen's voice sank a little, and his eyes coldly swept across the Tuoba family. Although Tuoba Outyen and the Great Elder had died, there were still several elders of the Divine Dwelling stage, as well as some experts of the Heaven and Earth Spirit Bridge and the Life and Death Chamber. It could be said that he had single-handedly caused the decline of the Tuoba family. There was no guarantee that the remaining members of the Tuoba family wouldn't secretly target him. Thank you for letting me become the young king of the barbarian race. The first order I issue is to capture and kill the source of the war, the culprit, the Tuoba family. Anyone who captures or kills the Tuoba family will be rewarded with a drop of ancient god blood. As Yiguchen's words rang out, the majority of the barbarian race turned their gazes to the Tuoba family. The small group of people from the Tuoba family was like being surrounded by a pack of wolves. Everyone, please listen to the words of the young king. Tuoba Shang demonized and awakened the chaotic world demon ape. The blood of sin flows in their family. There is no need to capture them, just kill them. Wan Yanlan shouted. Although the Tuoba family was an extremely important force of the barbarian race. But as long as they had the blood of ancient gods, the strength of the barbarian race would only grow stronger and stronger, and more experts would appear. Therefore, the destruction of the Tuoba family wouldn't have a big impact on the barbarian race. Damn it, you little bastard, you're really ruthless. The eyes of several elders of the Tuoba family bulged, and blue veins popped out. Yiguchen's move was too ruthless. He wanted to directly exterminate the Tuoba family. Of course, it was just as Yiguchen had expected. The elders of the Tuoba family had already made plans in their hearts. If they had the chance, they would ambush Yiguchen and kill him. Then, they would seize the ancient god's jade archive and control the entire Berserker tribe. But they didn't expect that Yiguchen was even more ruthless than them. Kill, the Tuoba family is a family with sinners' blood. For the blood of ancient gods. With the blood of ancient gods and Wan Yanlan's signal, the experts of the barbarian race no longer hesitated and directly besieged the Tuoba family. As for the Gold Clan, Fire Clan, Earth Clan, Wind Clan, Thunder Clan and other clans, Yiguchen didn't have the intention to destroy them. After all, these clans were the foundation of the barbarian race. It was different if they couldn't be destroyed. As long as Yiguchen completely controlled the 5 Elements Temple, he wasn't afraid of these clans playing any tricks. As for the Tuoba family, they would not rest until one of them was dead. Therefore, Yi Gu Chen had to be destroyed. Along with the sounds of killing, the barbarian race was destroyed. The once prosperous barbarian family had been completely destroyed. All the higher-ups and elite disciples were slaughtered and couldn't cause any more trouble. As for the leaders of the Gold Clan, Fire Clan and Thunder Clan, they were on tenterhooks. They were afraid that Yi Gu Chen would target them. Yi Gu Chen also gave the ancient god blood to the experts of the barbarian race who attacked. Of course, not all the barbarian race could receive the ancient god blood. Yi Gu Chen could only give the ancient god blood to the barbarian race who believed in him or were part of the peace faction. Leader Mulan, as the leader of the peace faction, you should receive the ancient god blood. Yi Gu Chen didn't hesitate and passed a lump of ancient god blood to Mulan Bo. Thank you, young master. Mulan Bo was overjoyed and hurriedly took it. It wasn't hard to imagine that with the destruction of the Tuoba family, the remaining Mulan family would be the biggest winner. With Yi Gu Chen's support, the Mulan family would become a huge force in the barbarian race, second only to the Five Elements Temple. Your Highness, thank you. Mulan Yue looked at Yi Gu Chen with her beautiful eyes and bowed. She didn't know why, but her face was slightly red. Just call me Yi Gu Chen. Yi Gu Chen wasn't used to being called young master. At this moment, the wooden bell spirit moved with difficulty and came to Yi Gu Chen's side. Young master, the wooden bell spirit lowered its head. It was regretful, ashamed. Chapter 598. Back then, if the wooden bell spirit was slightly more determined, she would have stood on Yi Gu Chen's side. Now, she would not be so embarrassed and regretful. The wooden bell spirit thought that Yi Gu Chen would not be able to escape death. It was a wise move for her to distance herself from him. She even thought that it was a mistake for Dragon Lady, Mulan Yue, and the others to be with Yi Gu Chen. But now, reality was like a slap to the wooden bell spirit's face. The current Yi Gu Chen had become the most noble and supreme existence in the entire barbarian race. Five Crown King, Heavenly Pupil King's successor, barbarian race's young king. Each identity was like a mountain that others could not compare to. In comparison, the wooden bell spirit's so-called saintess identity was laughable. Mulan Yue, Dragon Lady, and the others' faces were slightly cold. Although they could understand the wooden bell spirit's choice, they still looked down on her. You want the ancient god blood? Yi Gu Chen's tone was flat, as if he was facing a stranger. The wooden bell spirit lowered her head, her mouth full of bitterness. If she had stood firmly with Yi Gu Chen at that time, perhaps now, Yi Gu Chen would treat her as a true friend. For a long time, Yi Gu Chen did not move. The wooden bell spirit's face was so ashamed that it was about to bleed. So, sorry. The wooden bell spirit was too ashamed to stay here. She was even more ashamed to ask Yi Gu Chen for the ancient god blood. The wooden bell spirit's beautiful green eyes were filled with tears as she turned to leave. Take it. Yi Gu Chen's expression was calm as he gave the wooden bell spirit a ball of ancient god blood. This. The wooden bell spirit was stunned for a moment, not knowing what expression to make. Cultivate well. In the future, the barbarian race will need new blood for development, Yi Gu Chen said lightly, and then ignored her. For some reason, although she had obtained the ancient god blood, the wooden bell spirit wanted to cry. She gritted her teeth and returned to the wood race's camp. Why did you give her the ancient god blood? Dragon Lady pouted her lips, slightly unhappy. Her nature is not bad, that's all, Yi Gu Chen said casually. He was not a petty person. Oh, right, I also thought of someone. The dragoness suddenly said. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she turned to look at the Water Tribe camp. Two figures from the Water Tribe wanted to leave quietly. It was the Stormy Wave Saint Sun and Mo Tao. Stormy Wave Saint Sun, Mo Tao, come over here. Yi Gu Chen said calmly. He didn't make a move himself. The patriarch of the Water Tribe shouted, His Highness the young king has given the order. Why aren't the two of you getting over there? Violent waves. Holy Prince and Mo Tao's legs trembled, their faces alternating between green and white as they walked towards Yiguchen, Long Nu, and the others. Shocking waves. Saint Sun, you called me that quite happily before. I'm not worthy of being the saintess of the water tribe, am I? The dragon lady squinted her eyes. She seemed to be smiling, but her coldness made the stormy wave saint shudder. No, I was blinded by lard before. Dragon lady, please forgive me this time. No matter what, we are of the same race. The stormy wave saint immediately knelt down with a plop. He was such a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Yiguchen, it's up to you how you want to punish him. The dragon lady turned to Yiguchen and said. Seeing this, the stormy wave saint's son immediately knelt in front of Yiguchen and kept kowtowing. I'm sorry, young king. I was blind before. I had eyes but failed to see. I offended you many times. I deserve to die, I deserve to die. The stormy wave saint's son cried and screamed. He no longer had the bearing of a saint's son. Mo Tao's face stiffened. He clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. He felt as if he was in a dream. After all, it was the first time he saw Yiguchen. He thought that Yiguchen was just a lowly wandering barbarian. How long had it been? Yiguchen had become the most honorable young king of the barbarian tribe. Such a disparity made Mo Tao feel a sense of powerlessness rise up in his heart. Yiguchen's gaze was very cold as he said indifferently, provoking this ye's friends, this ye will let you all know what's called regret. Yiguchen did not hold back at all, taking out the ancient god's jade archive. The stormy wave saint's son and Mo Tao both turned pale. Slightly deploying the ancient god's jade archive, these two people immediately cried out miserably. Blood gushed out from all over their bodies. Their auras fell to rock bottom. Yiguchen casually deployed the ancient god's jade archive and actually directly crippled these two people's cultivation. Furthermore, all the meridians in their bodies were severed inch by inch. They already became cripples who could not even move. And no. The stormy wave saint's son's hair was disheveled, his mouth full of blood, a look of madness. This was simply even more unbearable than killing him. Ah! Mo Tao also cried out miserably. His entire body could not move, living a life worse than death. Throw them into the prison and imprison them for life, Yiguchen casually said. Immediately, people came forward to detain these two people. When all the barbarian powerhouses present saw the situation, they could not help but keep quiet. They were slightly terrified in their hearts. Rather, it was Wan Yanlan who looked at Yiguchen with faint admiration. Using the ancient god's blood to appease and using this method to generate majesty. With the two-pronged approach, Yiguchen's reputation was immediately established in the barbarian race. Everyone, since you are indebted to become the barbarian race's young king, then this ye naturally has to contribute to the well-being of the barbarian race. Everyone, follow me. Yiguchen suddenly said, then turned around and entered the fiend god mausoleum. What's the meaning of this? Many people revealed puzzlement. Because the chaotic world demon ape was sealed, the demonic aura that lingered around the mausoleum also dissipated. Wan Yanlan and the rest could also enter. Yiguchen used the ancient god's jade archive to open the mausoleum's door, then opened that mysterious space. When they saw this piece of land that was beaten until it was broken, all the barbarians were incomparably shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. Everyone, how do you feel about the heaven and earth spiritual energy here? Yiguchen said with a trace of a smile. What rich 5 elements essence energy. That's right. I can feel my totem becoming more active. Cultivating in here for 1 day is equivalent to cultivating for 3 days outside. Many barbarian powerhouses all opened their eyes wide, their faces full of incredulity. Although this piece of land was broken, that rich 5 elements essence energy did not dissipate. Heaven bless my barbarian race. Wan Yanlan knelt on the ground agitatedly. One could imagine that with the ancient god's blood, coupled with this cultivation treasure land. The barbarian race's strength would increase explosively, becoming unprecedentedly prosperous. Thank you, young king, for your grace. Wan Yanlan was the first to kneel in front of Yiguchen. Thank you, young king, for your grace. The rest of the barbarians knelt down uniformly. Right now, they completely submitted to Yiguchen without any disloyalty. After all, Yiguchen had brought great benefits to the barbarian race. It's finally done. Yiguchen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He did not want the barbarian race to become a hidden danger or a time bomb. After so many methods, the barbarian race had more or less completely submitted to Yiguchen. The next thing to do is to completely end the war between the 7 superpowers and the barbarian race, then go to Lotus Village and wake up Su Jianshi. Yiguchen thought to himself. Chapter 599. 5 Elements Mountain, 5 Elements Temple, in a secret cultivation room in the deepest part of the temple. This secret cultivation room was originally Great Elder Wan Yanlan's personal cultivation room. Now, it had become Yiguchen's cultivation room. Yiguchen sat in the secret cultivation room with his legs crossed. Blood qi surged all over his body. Drops of ancient god blood flowed out from the ancient god's heart and merged with Yiguchen's flesh and blood, refining his body bit by bit. Yiguchen had fought many battles and had even fought with Tuoba Shang, who was at the spiritual bridge realm of heaven and earth. As a result, he had many injuries on his body. However, with the sage to be elixir, treasure medicine and the refining of ancient god blood, Yiguchen's injuries had almost recovered in a few days. Moreover, Yiguchen had an unexpected gain. He had completely comprehended the 5 elements sword essence. Yiguchen's comprehension of the 5 elements Tao had reached a critical point after observing Heavenly I King's battle. He was only one step away from comprehending it. After merging with the ancient god's heart and becoming a 1-star ancient god, Yiguchen's comprehension of the 5 elements Tao had been completely comprehended. At a certain moment, Yiguchen suddenly opened his eyes and there was a 5-colored divine light shooting out from his eyes. He raised his hand and the 5 sword essences of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth were displayed one after another. After that, as Yiguchen rotated his hands, the 5 individual sword wills seemed to have turned into a complete circle. The 5 elements rotated in harmony. Yiguchen used his fingers as a sword and various sword radiance shot out. There were also various elemental powers surging in the surroundings. If there is a matching 5 elements sword formation, the power should be extraordinary, Yiguchen thought to himself. The most suitable way to use the 5 elements sword essence was to activate it in the form of a sword formation. The sword formation formed by the rotation of the 5 elements would definitely be powerful. However, the sword formation was also rare and Yiguchen did not insist on it. As for the sword principle territory, Yiguchen only had a preliminary understanding of the 5 elements sword essence and could not manifest the illusory sword principle territory yet. However, Yiguchen had a deeper understanding of Azura sword essence and edgeless sword essence. Especially after the battle with Tuoba Shang, Yiguchen's understanding of the Azura sword essence had improved. Territory, the sword principle territory's territory, the illusory territory, the territory's domain's power. The illusory territory's power can't be compared to the illusory domain's domain. While he was thinking about it, Yiguchen's body began to stir again. Is it the sword of thunder calamity? Yiguchen was slightly surprised. The sword of thunder calamity lay quietly in Yiguchen's dantian. It had not moved for a long time. Yiguchen had even forgotten that the sword of thunder calamity still existed in his dantian. Yet, at that moment, the lightning tribulation sword began to tremble again. As the sword trembled, Yiguchen discovered that the ancient god's heart was releasing the ancient god's blood and ancient god power on its own, endlessly pouring into the thunder calamity sword. Could it be? Yiguchen's eyes flashed with joy. Every time the thunder tribulation sword began to absorb energy, it meant that an extreme sword art or cultivation method would be revealed. As the power of the ancient god's heart was absorbed by the thunder calamity sword, Some small characters once again appeared on the body of the simple and unadorned jet-black sword. Yiguchin scanned the area with his divine sense and the joy in his eyes deepened. As expected, the sword manifested the third move of the 10,000 gods tribulation, the demon Buddha's tears. The first move, heaven and earth annihilation. The second style, life fall. The third style, Buddha demon tears. Wonderful, Yiguchin was amazed. Even with his experience as a sword demon, he believed that the 10,000 deities tribulation was worthy of being called a supreme sword technique. Not only was it extremely powerful when used alone, but there seemed to be a deeper level of skill hidden within the sword technique. Could it be that the 10,000 deities tribulation sword technique can be used in combination? Yiguchin could not help but ponder. This was because the names of the moves were vaguely related. However, the 10,000 deities tribulation was too profound. Even Yiguchin could not figure it out at the moment and did not know how to combine them. However, Yiguchin's priority was to memorize the third style, the demon Buddha's tears. After a few days, Yiguchin finally managed to memorize the moves of the Buddha's demon tears. Yiguchin was a little surprised by the consumption of this move. If it were not for his sea of qi, Yiguchin would not have been able to perform the third style. Of course, its power was proportional to its energy consumption. The power of the third style was even stronger than the life fall. It was definitely a major killing weapon. However, Yiguchin did not continue to immerse himself in cultivation. This was because he had more important things to do. Walking out of the secret cultivation room, Yiguchin felt extremely comfortable. This trip was too rewarding for Yiguchin. Quack, quack, little black, charge. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. Hey, how dare you defy Grandpa Condor and ride on Grandpa Condor's head? I'll teach you a lesson. As soon as he walked out of the secret cultivation room, he saw the little red bird and the little black monkey playing together. The little red bird and the little black monkey were a match made in heaven. Seeing Yiguchin come out, the divine condor said, "Boy, where did you find this silly monkey? How dare it defy Grandpa Condor's discipline? Ouch, if you dare to pluck Grandpa Condor's feathers again, I'll kill you." The little black monkey grabbed a handful of the divine condor's red feathers. The divine condor was so angry that it quacked. Yiguchin could not help but laugh. Yiguchin did not reveal the little black monkey's true identity. It was better to keep it as a trump card. By the way, boy, give Grandpa Condor a few drops of ancient god's blood. Grandpa Condor needs it too. The divine condor flapped its wings and landed in front of Yiguchin. Yiguchin nodded. A big ball of ancient god's blood appeared and the divine condor swallowed it directly. If this scene made the barbarian experts cry, their hearts would bleed. It was difficult for them to get even a drop, but the divine condor drank it like it was water. Yiguchin knew that the ancient god's blood had strong vitality and tempering effects. It was also very beneficial to demonic beasts. On the other hand, the little black monkey looked at the ancient god's blood with disdain and retreated as far as it could, as if the ancient god's blood was poisonous. As expected of an old enemy. Yiguchin shook his head. Your Highness, you've finally come out of seclusion. I'm ready to go to the Great Desolation Mansion at any time. At this time, Wanyan Lan and other elders of the Five Elements Temple walked up and cupped their hands in front of their chest. Okay, but this time, we're going to sign a peace treaty, so there's no need for so many people. Great Elder, you and Lord Heaven Barbarian will go, Yiguchin said. Yes. Wanyan Lan and Lord Heaven Barbarian cupped their hands in front of their chest. Lord Heaven Barbarian was even more excited. If he followed Yiguchin, he would have a better chance of getting the ancient god's blood. After that, Yiguchin left a big ball of ancient god's blood for the elders of the Five Elements Temple to distribute among themselves. He went to another secret chamber. Su Moyan, who was seriously injured, had woken up. I didn't die. Su Moyan was at a loss. At the same time, he found that his strength had broken through the life and death realm. This. Su Moyan felt like he was in a dream. Yiguchen walked up and told him everything. Is that so? I didn't expect you to have such an opportunity. Su Moyan sighed. Who would have thought that Yiguchen, who was forced by the barbarian tribe, would suddenly become the young lord? After I'm done with the war between the barbarian tribe and the seven forces, I'll go to Lotus Village to save Su Jianshi, Yiguchen said. Su Moyan nodded slightly. Su Moyan was anxious and wanted to bring the sacred herb to Lotus Village to save Su Jianshi. However, when Su Jianshi woke up, the first person she would want to see would be Yiguchen. Therefore, Su Moyan didn't say anything. After all, he just had to wait a few more days. Chapter 600. After everything was ready, Yiguchen left the Five Elements Temple. Mulanue, Dragon Girl, Shui Rua, and the others were waiting in front of the Five Elements Temple. Yiguchen glanced at them and found that Mulanue and Dragon Girl's aura had reached the life and death realm. Shui Rua's aura had also reached the Divine Soul 9 transformation. Moreover, they had refined the totem spiritual seal found in the tomb of the divinity and devil. Shui Rua and Dragon Girl had reached the Triple Crown King level, while Mulanue had reached the Quintuple Crown King level. Coupled with the refinement of the ancient god's blood and the activation of their bloodline, they were now stronger than Tuoba Shang, who was at the life and death realm. Are you leaving the barbarian tribe? Dragon Girl asked. Yes, thank you for taking care of me on this trip to the barbarian tribe. Yiguchen said sincerely. Without Dragon Girl's help, Yiguchen wouldn't have been able to go anywhere in the barbarian tribe, let alone enter the gate of the ancient god. You are my husband. The dragon lady blinked her beautiful blue eyes and said. At the side, Su Moyan gave Yiguchen a strange look. Cough. Yiguchen didn't know how to answer. I'm just teasing you. Dragon Girl said coquettishly. A touch of disappointment flashed through her eyes. Yiguchen didn't see it, or maybe he would pretend not to see it. Yiguchen, thank you so much. Mulanue stepped forward and said. The current Mulanue family was extremely prosperous and developed rapidly, second only to the Five Elements Temple. Yes, in the future, the Mulanue family must assist the Five Elements Temple in managing the barbarian tribe. Yiguchen said. Mulanue nodded. Brother Yi, will you come to the barbarian tribe in the future? Shui Rua said reluctantly. If there's a chance, I will. Yiguchen said. At this moment, not far away, another beautiful figure came over like a wave. It was a young woman in a colorful dress. She had a beautiful face, a graceful figure, and jade-like skin. She was incomparably graceful. This is... Yiguchen was momentarily stunned. What, Yiguchen, do you not recognize me? The woman spoke, her voice mature and gentle. So it's Senior. Yiguchen felt a little embarrassed. This woman was none other than 100 Flowers' child. It was just that the difference in appearance was too great, so Yiguchen did not immediately think of it. Yiguchen originally thought that the 100 Flowers' child who had refined the reversal origin fruit and regained her true form should be an old granny. He never thought that it would be a young woman. You can just call me Bai Hua. Thank you for your help this time. I will remember this favor, said Bai Hua. Thank you, Senior 100 Flowers. What do you plan to do next? Yiguchen asked. I'll go back with you. I also want to see how my disciples, LV Qinghan and Zither Fairy, are doing, said 100 Flowers. At the mention of LV Qinghan, Yiguchen suddenly remembered. Although LV Qinghan had recovered, she had lost her essential qi and could not recover in a short time. I wonder if LV Qinghan has escaped from the canyon. I'll pass by the ancient desolate forbidden zone on my way back, Yiguchen thought to himself. After bidding farewell, Yiguchen left with the Divine Eagle, Little Black Monkey, Su Moyan, 100 Flowers, Wan Yan Lan, and Heaven Barbarian King. Because of Wan Yanlan and Heaven Barbarian King's special identity, they both put on black robes to avoid attracting attention. After all, they were two divine dwelling realm experts, and one of them was the great elder of the Five Elements Temple. If they appeared in northern Yang City openly, they would be viewed as enemies or even attacked before the negotiation began. After Yiguchen left, Dragon Girl suddenly turned around and covered her cheeks with her hands, tears streaming down her face. Mulanyue's beautiful eyes were also red and she was in low spirits. Yiguchen did not see any of this. But even if he saw it, he could only let out a sigh. A few days later, Yiguchen and the others left the land of five elements and happened to pass by the ancient desolate forbidden zone. Although there was still the pressure of the formation, no one stayed in the ancient desolate forbidden zone. Therefore, 100 Flowers and the other divine dwelling realm experts followed Yiguchen into the forbidden zone. To Yiguchen's surprise, he really saw LV Qinghan in the canyon. LV Qinghan no longer looked like a white fairy. She looked a little down and out. She had been recovering the true qi in her body. Until now, she had only recovered a little. LV Qinghan was very surprised to see Yiguchen. Because she did not know that the blood-armored figure was Yiguchen, she did not understand how Yiguchen knew she was here. But before LV Qinghan could think, 100 Flowers stepped forward and said, "Disciple, you've suffered. You are." LV Qinghan was a little confused. "What, you don't even recognize your master?" 100 Flowers smiled. Master." LV Qinghan's face froze. After repeatedly sweeping her clear eyes over 100 Flowers, LV Qinghan's eyes suddenly turned red. She threw herself into 100 Flowers' arms and began to cry. Although the image was very different, the kind of loving gaze would not change. LV Qinghan had always shown a cold and indifferent attitude, but in front of her master, she revealed the weakness of a little girl. Because she had suffered a lot of grievances. First, she was betrayed by Zhou Tong and poisoned. Then, she was seen through by the blood-armored figure. Although LV Qinghan had put aside the grudge in her heart, she still felt a little uncomfortable after being seen by that person. Next, LV Qinghan briefly explained what had happened. Although 100 Flowers had heard it from Yiguchen, she was still incomparably angry. "Disciple, don't worry. That Zhou Tong conspired to frame you. He is really courting death. Even if he is the personal disciple of the Spirit Emperor, I will still make him pay with his life." 100 Flowers said coldly. She was extremely protective of her own people. After refining the divine medicine, the reverse source fruit, her strength and cultivation had soared again. Now, 100 Flowers' cultivation was almost the same as Heaven Barbarian King. She was slightly weaker than Wan Yanlan, but not by much. "Senior 100 Flowers, leave Zhou Tong to me," Yiguchen said. He and Zhou Tong were destined to have an end. LV Qinghan glanced at Yiguchen. Su Moyan was standing beside Yiguchen, and behind him were two black-robed figures. LV Qinghan deliberately glanced at Su Moyan. Wasn't this person the mysterious young expert who had appeared in House Yunyan, exchanged a blow with her, and forced her to retreat? Why was he with Yiguchen? LV Qinghan was slightly puzzled. "By the way, since you were poisoned by Zhou Tong, how did you get rid of the poison?" 100 Flowers asked. Yiguchen only told 100 Flowers that LV Qinghan was framed by Zhou Tong. But he did not tell 100 Flowers that he had saved LV Qinghan. Because it was not easy for him to talk about that kind of thing. Hearing this, LV Qinghan's snow-white face suddenly flushed red with embarrassment. She seemed to be a little embarrassed. "Disciple, what's wrong with you? Did something happen?" 100 Flowers asked with a slight frown. "Yes, someone did save me, but... LV Qinghan was a little embarrassed, but because of 100 Flowers' inquiry, she could only say it vaguely. "What? You were seen naked by that person?" 100 Flowers' expression froze. The disciples of Consonant's divine palace had always valued reputation. Moreover, LV Qinghan's identity was the signature of Consonant's divine palace, and she was the chief disciple of 100 Flowers. Who is it? Although he saved you out of kindness, in this way, I will make him take responsibility for you no matter what. 100 Flowers said firmly. At the side, Yiguchin felt slightly uncomfortable. The divine eagle on his shoulder cackled. After all, it had seen it with its own eyes. That person was wearing a hideous blood-red armor. LV Qinghan slowly said. Following LV Qinghan's description, the atmosphere seemed to have stilled. The more 100 Flowers listened, the stranger their gaze became. Su Moyan's gaze also became more and more strange. Even Wan Yanlan and the Heaven Barbarian King, who were hidden under the black robes, had strange expressions. Why did it seem more and more like Yiguchin wearing the Sky Demon General armor the more she described it? After all, that blood-red armor could be said to be the symbol of the Five-Crown King. When LV Qinghan finished speaking, her beautiful eyes suddenly discovered that 100 Flowers, Su Moyan, and the others were all looking at Yiguchin. This. Actually, I have long wanted to explain, Yiguchin paused, somewhat helpless. LV Qinghan's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Chapter 601. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and her clear eyes were filled with disbelief. Yiguchin, what do you mean? And Master, why are you looking at Yiguchin? LV Qinghan had a premonition in her heart. Does the person who saved you have the progenitor totem? 100 Flowers asked faintly. Yes, that person should be a reclusive holy son of the brute race. After all, even 4-Crown King Tuoba Shang did not have the progenitor totem, LV Qinghan said. Because she had been trapped in the canyon, she did not know that Yiguchin had transformed into 5-Crown King and defeated Tuoba Shang in the desolate ancient arena. She also did not know that Tuoba Shang, who she regarded as a great enemy of the brute race, had already died. Sigh. The few people present all sighed slightly. This way, they were even more certain. In the entire brute race, besides Yiguchin, who else could have the progenitor totem? Yiguchin perfectly fit the image that LV Qinghan had described. Then, 100 Flowers' beautiful eyes turned to Yiguchin, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Yiguchin, you know that the disciples of Lingxi Palace value reputation the most. You did such a thing to my disciple, don't tell me you don't have anything to say. Moss. Master, what are you talking about? And what does this have to do with Yiguchin? LV Qinghan was completely confused. The person who saved her was a brute race person, who had nothing to do with Yiguchin. Ha, you can ask Yiguchin, maybe you will know the truth. 100 Flowers looked like she was watching a show. To be honest, she was also quite fond of Yiguchin. Appearance, strength, cultivation, temperament, they were all the best. If he had a good marriage with her disciple, 100 Flowers would not object. Yiguchin, what is going on? LV Qinghan's heart suddenly trembled. Sigh. Yiguchin originally wanted to forget this matter and pretend it never happened. But now, it seemed impossible. He slowly raised his hand, and the 5-colored totem power turned and surged in his palm. This is totem power. LV Qinghan's mouth was slightly open, her face full of surprise. It was not rare for someone to cultivate the barbarian race's totemic power. What was rare was that the density and purity of this totemic power was even stronger than the barbarian race's holy sun. How is this possible? Are you? LV Qinghan felt as if her chest was blocked. Yiguchin sighed softly. He then told Yimu everything that had happened. LV Qinghan thoroughly understood the ins and outs of the matter. The blood-armored figure was Yiguchin. Yiguchin was the barbarian race's 5-Crown King, the current young king. In other words, it was you who saved me. LV Qinghan's delicate body swayed, and her snow-white jade face was so red that it was almost dripping blood. She could never have imagined that the crimson-armored figure was Yiguchin. Confusion, incomprehension, doubt, shock, surprise, complexity, all sorts of emotions tumbled and intertwined in LV Qinghan's heart, creating a complex mix of emotions. No wonder when I wanted to see his true appearance, he said that I wouldn't want to know. So this was the reason. LV Qinghan laughed at herself. Thinking back, how foolish and laughable she had been to be deceived by Zhou Tong's appearance. She had even acted on her own initiative and tried to pull strings to form a marriage between Zhou Tong and Zither Fairy. Because she was biased towards Zhou Tong, she had instead thought that Yi Guqin's character was not good. She had even foolishly warned Yi Guqin to leave Zither Fairy. Now that she thought about it, she was really stupid. LV Qinghan lowered her head, her cheeks red from shame. She had thought that Zhou Tong, who had a good character, was a smiling tiger, and had even plotted against her so viciously. On the contrary, it was Yi Guqin, whom she had looked down on previously, who had saved her at the last moment and cured her of the poison. After taking a deep breath, LV Qinghan said with a trace of shame, "I'm sorry, Yi Guqin." Qinghan was blind before and had been deceived by that villain Zhou Tong. She had even said such ignorant words. LV Qinghan was truly ashamed. She felt that she had been too stupid. No matter. Zhou Tong's only ending is death anyway, and you are the best witness, said Yi Guqin. Hearing this, extreme anger appeared in LV Qinghan's clear eyes. If not for Yi Guqin, she would really have died. She had to take revenge for this. Don't worry. I'm returning to Northern Liang City this time to make Zhou Tong reveal his true colors and die under the curses of everyone. Yi Guqin's tone was cold. Yi Guqin had never shown mercy to his enemies. Yes, Qinghan will assist you with all her strength this time. LV Qinghan had completely thought it through. Now that you've discussed this matter, shouldn't we talk about being responsible for my disciple? Bai Hua said with a teasing smile. LV Qinghan reacted, her tender body stiffening. When she remembered that she had taken off her clothes in front of Yi Guqin, LV Qinghan's cheeks flushed red. She had been prejudiced against Yi Guqin before, but now that her prejudice had been removed, their relationship had become awkward. Elder Bai Hua must be joking. Yi Guqin blushed with shame. He also found that Su Moyan was coldly staring at him. It was as if Su Moyan would punish him if he agreed. Oh, it was just a casual remark. I won't force you, Bai Hua said with a faint smile. If she didn't owe Yi Guqin a favor, Bai Hua might have asked Yi Guqin to be responsible for her disciple's reputation. But Yi Guqin was not just a heaven pride of the spirit stage. He was the young king of the brute race, and not just anyone was qualified to touch him. Moreover, there were two great divine dwelling experts standing behind him, the Heaven Barbarian King and Wan Yanlan. LV Qinghan might not even be worthy of Yi Guqin. Bai Hua naturally wouldn't force him. LV Qinghan lowered her head, her expression complicated, and her heart pounding. Okay, let's go to Northern Liang City. Yi Guqin waved his hand. Next, the group left the desolate ancient forbidden zone and headed towards Northern Liang City. This time, Yi Guqin wanted to solve all the problems in one go. Zhou Tong, the Shinto family, none of them could escape. Only by solving all the problems could Yi Guqin head to Lotus Village with a peace of mind. After the matter in the desolate ancient forbidden zone ended, the entire great desolate mansion fell into turmoil. The seven great forces and the brute race were constantly at war, and both sides were really angry. After all, in the desolate ancient forbidden zone, Tuoba Shang wanted to use a formation to eliminate all the heaven prides of the seven great forces. Moreover, because the matter of the ancient god gate had just happened, the brute race in the great desolate mansion had yet to receive news of the five elements land. Therefore, the war was still ongoing. During this period of time, many things had happened in the great desolate mansion. The first thing was the three-sect alliance formed by the Limitless Sword sects Xian Tai. The three sects were the Limitless Sword sect, the three imperial palaces, and the Saint Origin Academy. The Saber-Sealing King Palace had also received an invitation, but the Deputy Palace Master, Yu Bufan, chose to stay out of it. As for the Sword sect Talon and the Nine Profound sect, they were rejected. The second thing was the rumor that the Consonance Divine Palace's Zither Fairy was going to marry the three imperial palaces Zhou Tong. On the day of their wedding, the consonant's divine palace, led by Grandma Shichuan, would join the three-sect alliance, becoming the four-sect alliance. Xian Tai had once said that the four-sect alliance was to build a united front to fight against the brute race. However, anyone with a discerning eye could see that he wanted to exclude the sword sect Talon and the nine profound sect. Xian Tai wanted to turn the seven great forces of the Saint Origin dynasty into five great forces. As for the sword sect Talon, after the incident in the desolate ancient forbidden zone and the disappearance of Yi Guqin, their reputation fell. After all, the face of the sword sect Talon was the sword king Feng Manlu and the sword sect Yi Guqin. Yi Guqin had disappeared in the desolate ancient forbidden zone and did not even appear in the desolate ancient arena. This made everyone's heart turn cold. As for Feng Manlu, it was said that he was injured in the battle with the heavenly barbarian king and was no longer as strong as before. Just as the sword sect Talon's reputation fell to the bottom. Xian Tai chose to form the four-sect alliance. This was Sima Zhao's intention and everyone knew it. Chapter 602. Northern Liang City, outside the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. Every day, there would be disciples of Limitless Sword Sect, Three Imperial Palace, and Saint Origin Academy walking around and cursing. Sword Sect Pagoda Forest dares to call itself a sacred ground for sword cultivators. Pooh! They can't be compared to my Limitless Sword Sect. That Yi Guqin is also a coward. He didn't even appear in the desolate ancient arena. A disciple of Limitless Sword Sect said loudly. Sai, you can't say that. Maybe Yi Guqin has already died in the forbidden zone of the ancient desolate forbidden zone. No one knows about it. A dignified sword grandmaster actually ended up in such a tragedy. What a pity. The disciple of the three imperial palaces pretended to sigh. Sword sect and sword king are all bullshit. So what if Feng Manlu is strong? He's still injured. Now, he's fighting with the barbarian race. The entire sword sect Pagoda Forest is a bunch of trash. A disciple of Saint Origin Academy sneered. There were many people walking around. When they saw this scene, they all sighed. Back then, the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest was glorious during the seven major forces exchange. Sword Sect Yi Guqin alone swept across the four directions, making the sky prides of the major forces bow down to him. Xian Tai wanted to provoke Feng Manlu, but Feng Manlu unsheathed his divine wind sword after 10 years of accumulation. He slashed off Xian Tai's arm, shocking everyone. A sword sect. A sword king. He had established the prestige of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. No one dared to ignore him. But now, there was no news about Yi Guqin. It was rumored that he had fallen in the desolate ancient forbidden zone. Feng Manlu had gone into seclusion after his battle with Heaven Barbarian King. The entire Sword Sect Pagoda Forest seemed to have withered because of this. There were even people mocking and cursing outside. However, there was no movement from the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest. No one came out. Sigh, it seems like Sword Sect's Ta Lin is really on his last legs. I heard that the prime sovereign of the Saber-Sealing King Palace, the Little War Emperor and Zhou Tong of the three imperial palaces, and Xian Hao of the Limitless Sword Sect have all broken through to the life and death threshold. Yeah, those sky prides could be said to have reached the heavens with a single step in the desolate ancient forbidden zone. On the other hand, Yan Wushuang, the only one left after Yi Guqin's death, still hasn't reached the life and death threshold. There is also Yuan Mie who comprehended the dark sword intent. He is not bad, but he can't keep up. Just from the younger generation, Sword Sect Tower Forest can't compare to the other factions. Actually, I should have thought of this long ago. Among the younger generation of the Sword Sect's Tower Forest, there was only the Sword Sect supporting it. Now that the Sword Sect has fallen, although Yan Wushuang and Yuan Mia are not weak, they will not be able to shoulder the burden. Many people looked at the Sword Sect's forest of pagodas and sighed. During this period of time in northern Yang City, apart from the establishment of the four-sect alliance and the wedding with fairy Zhou Tongqin, there was also the matter of these geniuses breaking through to the life and death threshold. It was rumored that the Saber Monarch Palace's saber maniac, Gu Zun. After the battle in the desolate ancient arena, he disdained to use the life and death intent and went through countless massacres alone. Because he had committed too many massacres, he was targeted by the barbarian race's life and death threshold experts. After an unimaginable struggle between life and death, Gu Zun directly broke through to the life and death threshold with his own strength. Moreover, he had become a great threshold expert. There was even news that the first thing Gu Zun did after breaking through was to kill the veteran life and death threshold expert who was chasing after him. With the 7 slaughter ancient blade in hand, Gu Zun crossed 3,000 miles and killed the life and death chamber expert with one strike, dragging the blade for 3,000 miles, severing the profound threshold in one move. This matter completely established Gu Zun's position and made his name spread throughout the Saint Origin dynasty. After that, it was rumored that a barbarian race's heaven and earth spirit bridge expert attacked Gu Zun. In the end, Gu Zun escaped from the hands of the heaven and earth spirit bridge expert, severing the life and death threshold and escaping from the hands of the heaven and earth spirit bridge expert. Gu Zun's fame was unparalleled. Many people recalled the battle between Blade Maniac and Sword Master on the Forbidden Violet Summit. But now, Sword Master's whereabouts were unknown and he was almost presumed dead. On the other hand, Gu Zun had completely risen. His 7 slaughter ancient blade had shaken the entire dynasty. Such a comparison made people sigh. Of course, apart from Gu Zun, there were also some other top heavens prides who were outstanding. Xian Hao, after being defeated by Yi Guqin in the exchange, did not become dispirited. Instead, he rose again. Although he relied on the life and death intent to break through to the life and death threshold, his strength was not to be underestimated. There was news that Xian Hao had completely mastered the limitless sword art of the limitless sword sect. Xian Hao could even perform the most difficult and profound moves. Moreover, he had also comprehended the peerless void sword intent to an extremely profound level. Even the incomplete sword intent that Xian Hao possessed was gradually comprehended by him. That was the limitless sword sect's unique inheritance sword intent, the peerless yin-yang sword intent. With 2 great sword intents and the complete limitless sword art, there was no need to doubt Xian Hao's strength. If Gu Zun was said to be the leader of the younger generation in Blade Dao, then Xian Hao seemed to have replaced Yi Guqin in Sword Dao. In addition, there was also the Little War Emperor of 3 imperial palaces, Yang Haozong, who had also relied on the life and death threshold to break through to the life and death threshold. Zhou Tong had also broken through to the life and death threshold and entered the ranks of top heavens prides. It could be said that after the ancient desolate arena, some heavens prides rose. There were also heavens prides who had fallen. For example, the once glorious Sword Master and Lv Qinghan of the Rhino Divine Palace. If it was said that Yi Guqin's fall made most people happy, then Lv Qinghan's disappearance was regrettable. Because of Zhou Tong's scheme, everyone believed that the one who killed Lv Qinghan was Five Crown King. However, Five Crown King had saved the 7 factions heavens prides in the ancient desolate arena. Therefore, everyone had a love-hate relationship with the mysterious Five Crown King. In the Sword Sect Tower's encampment, most of the disciples were depressed. Yi Xia and Chu Qingqi didn't look too good. I really want to go out and beat up those foul-mouthed bastards. Yi Xia curled his lips in displeasure. I want to too, but Elder Qinghe has ordered that the Sword Sect Tower's encampment is not to clash with the other factions. Chu Qingqi sighed. Not far away, a pretty girl with a ponytail wearing a green shirt and green pants walked over with a worried expression. It was Ji Ling, senior sister Ji Ling. Is senior sister Yan still in seclusion? Chu Qingqi asked. Ji Ling revealed a worried expression. Ever since junior martial brother Yi went missing in the forbidden zone of the ancient desolation era, Shuang has shouldered all the burdens. She has also obtained the will of life and death and wants to break through to the life and death threshold. She has been in seclusion ever since. Ji Ling sighed, her eyes red. Her heart ached for Yan Wushuang. Sigh. Chu Qingqi and Yi Xia also sighed. There was no one in the younger generation of the Sword Sect Tower's encampment who could hold the fort. Yuan Mie had been attacked by Princess Yuan Shi and the others during the exchange. After recovering from his injuries, he went out and started fighting the barbarian race to gain experience. However, Yuan Mie's foundation wasn't strong enough, so he couldn't break through to the life and death threshold in a short time. Only Yan Wushuang was left. In a few days, the four-sect alliance will be established. It's also the wedding day of Zhou Tong and Zither Fairy. Why would Zither Fairy agree to marry Zhou Tong? Ji Ling asked. Maybe, she was forced. Chu Qingqi said thoughtfully. Even so, there was nothing they could do. Chapter 603. In an inner courtyard of the Sword Sect's forest of pagodas. In a quiet room. Yan Wushuang sat cross-legged on the ground. Her long and slender legs were crossed, forming a beautiful curve. She straightened her delicate body. Her forehead was full of fragrant sweat that moistened her temples. Waves of vigorous true qi were brewing in her body. At the same time, a pitch-black mass that looked like a stream of air and emitted a deathly aura was floating in front of Yan Wushuang. It was the life and death intent that Yan Wushuang had obtained in the desolate ancient forbidden zone. Yan Wushuang was trying her best to break through the life and death threshold with the help of the life and death intent. However, along with the passage of time, Yan Wushuang's beautiful brows that were tightly shut suddenly knit together, and a trace of pain was revealed between her brows. Puqi. In the next moment, Yan Wushuang abruptly opened her eyes and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face, which was already somewhat pale, was now as white as a sheet of paper. At this moment, a gust of wind blew over. Behind Yan Wushuang, a handsome middle-aged man in plain clothes appeared. His eyes were hollow, and he was Feng Manlu. Feng Manlu placed his hand on Yan Wushuang's back and poured a stream of pure and gentle Zhen Qi into her, stabilizing the chaotic Zhen Qi in her body. After recuperating for 15 minutes, Yan Wushuang's condition stabilized. She hurriedly asked, "Uncle Feng, have you recovered from your injuries?" "Not bad. That barbarian king is worthy of being the strongest warrior of the barbarian tribe, second only to Wan Yanlan," Feng Manlu said indifferently. At that time, King Tian Barbarian was so powerful that many divine-dwelling stage experts from the 7 great forces were severely injured by him. In the end, Feng Manlu had to make a move to repel him. Feng Manlu, on the other hand, was only at the spiritual bridge of heaven and earth. It was already incredible that he could repel the heaven barbarian king. Therefore, it was inevitable that he would be injured. Upon hearing that Feng Manlu's condition had stabilized, Yan Wushuang felt a little more at ease. However, there was still a tinge of unwillingness in her beautiful eyes. "Shuang, you're trying so hard to break through. You've entered a state of obsession. The more you do this, the harder it will be for you to break through. You might even go berserk," Feng Manlu said earnestly. But Shuang doesn't want the Sword Sect's tower to be weaker than others. Yan Wushuang bit her red lips and clenched her jade-like hands. Relying on the will of life and death to make a breakthrough is not stable. Furthermore, your mind is in a mess right now. You won't be able to make a breakthrough. Feng Manlu sighed. Yan Wushuang lowered her head. After a moment of silence, she said, "Uncle Feng, do you think Yi Guqin is really dead?" Yan Wushuang's voice trembled as she spoke. She didn't want to believe that Yi Guqin, who had single-handedly turned the tide in the exchange meeting, had died so quietly in the forbidden zone of the ancient desolate. "The successor I've chosen is someone who can create miracles. How can he die at the peak of the violet forbidden city?" Feng Manlu didn't seem to be worried about Yi Guqin's life at all. If Yi Guqin isn't dead, then why isn't there any news about him? Why hasn't he returned to the Sword Sect's pagoda forest? Yan Wushuang felt a little hopeful. Perhaps he has something he must do. In any case, when the time comes, he will naturally return, Feng Manlu said. Yi Guchen, will you really come back? Yan Wushuang's eyelids drooped slightly. There was a trace of anticipation in her heart. Northern Liang City, Consonance Palace's encampment. In a courtyard, there were female disciples of Consonance Palace guarding the entrance. In the courtyard, Zither Fairy, dressed in pink, was playing the zither with her jade-like fingers. Her beautiful face was filled with worry. She looked thin, pale, and sickly. There wasn't a trace of true qi leaking from her body. It was as if she was an ordinary woman who had yet to embark on the path of cultivation. Her zither music was also sobbing like tears. Not long after, a figure entered the courtyard. She was dressed in a flowery dress and had an elegant appearance. However, the corner of her eyes and the tip of her brows had a hint of harshness and coldness that destroyed her temperament. It was Rintingting. Zither Fairy, you're really lucky. Young Noble Zhou specifically said that he wants to marry you. You should know that young Noble Zhou has reached the life and death threshold and is now one of the top heaven's prides. Rintingting's tone was strange and filled with jealousy. She had always admired Zhou Tong and was deeply infatuated with him. However, Zhou Tong had always been obsessed with Zither Fairy and didn't care about Rintingting. This made Rintingting's hatred for Zither Fairy even deeper. I've already said that I don't want to marry Zhou Tong. If you want, you can marry him yourself. Zither Fairy's voice was so weak that it made people feel pity for her. Who would have thought that Rintingting, who heard this, would scream like a furious tigress? Zither Fairy, are you mocking me? Rintingting was so angry that she directly flashed in front of Zither Fairy and slapped her hard in the face. Slap. Zither Fairy was slapped to the ground. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, but she still had a smile on her face. Go ahead, Rintingting. You better kill me. Then I won't have to marry Zhou Tong. Zither Fairy looked indifferent. Rintingting was about to explode. It was impossible for her to get Zhou Tong's favor, but Zither Fairy actually despised Zhou Tong. This made Rintingting's heart surge with jealousy and resentment. Do you think LV Qinghan is still protecting you? She's already dead. Rintingting couldn't help but attack. Zither Fairy closed her eyes in sorrow. At this moment, an aged voice sounded out and said indifferently, Tingting, stop for now. Rintingting stopped and glared hatefully at Zither Fairy. Then, she stood to the side. An old woman walked in from the courtyard. It was the Vice Palace Master of Consonance Palace, Grandma Shichuan. As the Vice Palace Master, she saw Zither Fairy bleeding from the corner of her mouth and being slapped to the ground by Rintingting. Her expression didn't change at all. It was as if she hadn't seen Rintingting's evil deeds. Zither Fairy, have you thought it through? If you're willing to marry Zhou Tong, I'll remove the true qi seal on your body. Furthermore, you'll live well in Consonance Palace, Grandma Shichuan said coldly. Pan Shuoyan was Grandma Shichuan's disciple and didn't get along with Zither Fairy. After her death, Grandma Shichuan naturally didn't treat Zither Fairy well. However, because of Hundred Flower Child and LV Qinghan's protection, Grandma Shichuan couldn't go too far. But now, Hundred Flower Child had been missing for a long time and LV Qinghan had also died. Grandma Shichuan was practically in control of the entire Consonance Palace. Her disciples also held a dominant position. However, if she wanted to completely control Consonance Palace, she needed external help. That was the power of the Four-Sect Alliance. If Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong were to marry, Grandma Shichuan would undoubtedly gain the support of the three imperial palaces. This would help Grandma Shichuan eliminate her enemies and completely turn Consonance Palace into her own force. Grandma Shichuan, I didn't expect you to be so ambitious. Do you want to replace Master? Zither Fairy said coldly as she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Impudent. I'm thinking of the bigger picture. How could a mere disciple like you understand? Grandma Shichuan said righteously. She waved her sleeve and a burst of true qi shot out. Zither Fairy was sent flying again and she coughed up blood. I won't marry Zhou Tong even if I die. Zither Fairy said resolutely as blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. I didn't expect you to be so unappreciative. You don't know how to sacrifice for the sect. If you weren't still useful, I would have already killed you to avenge my disciple Xuoyan. No matter what, you and Zhou Tong will be married in 3 days. Grandma Shichuan's tone was cold as she turned and left. Zither Fairy, you are really blind. You can marry young Master Zhou, but you still look as if you would rather die than submit. Could it be that you still want your lover, Yi Guqin? He died in the ancient desolate forbidden zone. Even if he didn't die, so what? He doesn't have the will of life and death. He's just a divine soul realm cultivator. Young Master Zhou has cultivated the life and death threshold. Even if Yi Guqin is still alive, he's at most a divine soul realm cultivator. Young Master Zhou can crush him with a finger as easily as crushing an ant. Ren Tingting said with disdain. You're not allowed to insult young Master Yi. Zither Fairy's eyes were red. Bitch! Ren Tingting spat, then turned and left the courtyard. Zither Fairy was injured. She lay on the ground covered in dust. Tears blurred her vision. Young Master Yi, if you're still alive, please come back. Let everyone know that it's all because of that, the unparalleled sword sect. Chapter 604. After several days, Yi Guqin and the rest finally crossed thousands of miles and arrived at northern Liang City. Yi Guqin sighed softly as he looked at the incomparably majestic city walls. Although he had not stayed in the Five Elements land for long, he felt as if he had left for a long time. I wonder how Sword Sect Talon is doing now. Yi Guqin was an indifferent person and was not an emotional person. However, Yi Guqin still had some feelings for Sword Sect Talon. After all, it was the first sect he had joined. Chu Qingqi, Yi Guqin, Ji Ling, Yan Wushuang, and even Yuan Mia could be considered Yi Guqin's friends. Not to mention Feng Manlu, who had helped Yi Guqin many times to resist the pressure from the other divine-dwelling experts. Yi Guqin thought to himself. Suddenly, he thought of Zhou Tong. Yi Guqin had never fought with Zhou Tong before, but Zhou Tong was not known for his cultivation. What he was best at was all kinds of vicious schemes. Such a person was actually more difficult to deal with than enemies who were only strong in martial arts. If one did not kill him in one blow, the revenge of such a person would be very terrifying. Therefore, this time, Yi Guqin had already decided to completely eliminate Zhou Tong and expose his hypocritical face. Everyone, I have a plan that requires your cooperation. Including LV Qinghan, all of you should hide in the shadows for the time being. Yi Guqin said after a thought. After she finished speaking, LV Qinghan's eyes lit up. She said with a faint sense of pleasure, this is for the best. I can let everyone see Zhou Tong's hypocritical side. If I appeared directly, with his scheming, he would definitely bite back and think of all sorts of schemes. That's right. This time, I want Zhou Tong to be cursed after his death. Yi Guqin's eyes flashed coldly. Of course, besides Zhou Tong, Yi Guqin did not forget that the Shinto family had sent 4 life and death chamber elders to hunt him down. Yi Guqin still had evidence in his hands. Today was the day that Zhou Tong and the Shinto family were completely destroyed. Subsequently, Yi Guqin and the others entered northern Liang City. For some reason, Yi Guqin felt that northern Liang City was much livelier than before. Yi Guqin kept a low profile and disguised himself slightly. This was because he did not want to cause a stir at the beginning. If that happened, Zhou Tong and the Shinto family would have the opportunity to prepare. LV Qinghan, 100 Flowers, Heaven Barbarian King, Wan Yanlan, and Su Moyan were scattered in the dark. When they passed by a tea house, some people were chatting. Today seems to be Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong's wedding day, and it seems to be the day the 4-sect alliance was established. Yeah, I heard that it's going to be held in the martial arena. Right now, the martial arena has already been decorated into a wedding hall. People from all the major forces have gone there. After all, the marriage alliance is a small matter, but the establishment of the four-sect alliance is a big matter. Sigh, the establishment of the four-sect alliance has excluded the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest and the Nine Profound Sect. The Sealed Saber Monarch Palace is also not involved. The Sword Sect Pagoda Forest is probably the most difficult to deal with. Yeah, I also heard that Yen Wushuang wanted to use the life and death intent to forcefully break through to the life and death threshold. In the end, she suffered a backlash and suffered serious injuries. Now that the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest is in decline, there is no one in the younger generation who can fight. Yen Wushuang is naturally anxious. That Gu Zun, Xian Hao, Little War Emperor, and Zhou Tong have all broken through to the life and death threshold. Two cultivators were chatting casually. A figure walked in front of them. Tell me all the news. Yi Guchen's expression froze as he said coldly. Who are you? The two cultivators were about to impatiently scold him when they saw Yi Guchen's eyes. It was as if they were being devoured by blood. I'll tell you now. The two were shocked and told Yi Guchen everything that had happened recently. Heh. Marriage alliance, four-sect alliance. Yi Guchen smiled coldly and turned around to leave. That scared me to death. Why is that young man's eyes blood-red? One of the cultivators said with lingering fear. Blood-red eyes, I've heard that Yi Guchen, who has comprehended the Azura sword intent, has a skill that can manifest blood-red Azura eyes. The other cultivator seemed to have thought of something and guessed. Soon after, the two cultivators' expressions froze. It can't be. Didn't the Sword Sect Master die in the ancient desolate Forbidden Zone? One of the cultivators said while trembling. The sky is about to change. The other cultivator was secretly shocked. It was as if he could see the endless blood that shrouded the arena. The arena was located at the center of northern Liang City. It was also the most crowded and lively place. However, today, the arena that was originally used for martial arts battles and counting merits was filled with countless red lanterns. It was a peaceful and festive atmosphere. Today was the wedding day of Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong. It was also the day that the four-sect alliance was established. There were only 7 major forces in the Saint Origin dynasty. 4 of them were going to form an alliance. The impact of that would be huge. The arena's gate was about to be broken by the crowd. Outside the arena, people from various forces had arrived. The Gongsun family has arrived. Someone shouted at the entrance. The crowd parted. The Gongsun family's master, Gongsun Xianlong, Gongsun Xiaoye, and Gongsun Yu had arrived. Seeing the arrival of the Gongsun family, the surrounding crowd began to whisper. The Gongsun family has reached the sky in a single bound. After receiving Yi Guchen's letter, I heard that Master Gongsun is already half a step into the ranks of a 5-star forging grandmaster. I'm afraid that the Gongsun family's influence is not weaker than the 7 major forces. After all, the Gongsun family has too many connections. Many people were discussing. However, Gongsun Yu's old face did not look very good. How did little friend Yi die in the ancient desolation Forbidden Zone? The few letters he gave me enlightened me. If he gave me a few more, I'm confident that I can become a 5-star forging grandmaster. Gongsun Yu's face was full of sorrow as he sighed. Sigh, it's indeed a pity. Gongsun Xianlong also sighed. He admired Yi Guchen. Other than his unparalleled talent in the sword Dao, Yi Guchen also had talent in forging that others could not match. Father, grandfather, is brother Yu really dead? Gongsun Xiaoye was dressed in red makeup. She had almond eyes and peach cheeks. She was still as cute as ever. However, at this moment, her small face was bitter. She had already said that she would not marry anyone other than Yi Guchen. There's been no news for a long time. I'm afraid little friend Yi is really. Gongsun Xianlong shook his head. The Gongsun family's group sighed as they entered the arena. Not long after, the Shinto family arrived. Shinto Zhan, Shinto Miao, Shinto Yuan, and the rest were among them. Although the Shinto family's reputation had plummeted due to the failure of their marriage alliance with the Gongsun family, they were still a super family after all. They were still very tenacious. At this moment, be it Shinto Zhan, Shinto Miao, and the rest, they all had relaxed expressions. Sending 4 elders to kill Yi Guqin was indeed a wise choice. Shinto Zhan was secretly pleased with himself. Previously, he was still a little uneasy. If the news were to leak out, the Shinto family might be doomed eternally. However, it now seemed that things had gone smoothly. As for the 4 elders, Shinto Zhan thought that they wanted to avoid suspicion. Therefore, they left immediately and did not return to the Shinto family. Yi Guqin, so what if you are a genius? You were still killed by father's scheme. You are dead, and I am alive. I am the winner. Shinto Miao could not help but smile. At the wedding banquet, Yi Guqin had caused trouble in public. His fiancée, Gongsun Xiaoye, had even said that she wanted to marry Yi Guqin. This made Shinto Miao feel extremely humiliated. However, now that the main culprit had fallen, Shinto Miao felt extremely relaxed. Chapter 605. Following the arrival of the Shinto family, Gongsun family and other super families, the entire arena was in an uproar. There were tens of thousands of martial artists who had come to watch the ceremony. Almost the entire arena was filled with people. The Limitless Sword sect has arrived. A loud shout was heard, and the noise in the arena was reduced by a lot. One could see the prestige of the Limitless Sword sect. The Limitless Sword sect had always been one of the top few among the 7 major forces. They even had the tendency to be number 1. The mysterious sect master of the Limitless Sword sect, Xian Wuji, had always been in seclusion. In the past 10 years, he had barely shown his face. However, even so, it did not affect the prestige of the Limitless Sword sect. The person who had initiated the 4-sect alliance was Xian Tai of the Limitless Sword sect. At this moment, the people of the Limitless Sword sect led by Xian Tai had arrived. One of Xian Tai's sleeves was empty. It had been cut off by Feng Manlu. However, his prestige did not decrease. Sword Sect Pagoda Forest and Feng Manlu. In this 4-sect alliance, I want Sword Sect Pagoda Forest to be completely isolated and targeted by the barbarian tribe. Xian Tai sneered in his heart. He hated Feng Manlu to the core. Behind Xian Tai, a figure caught everyone's attention. That young man had long black and white hair that fluttered in the wind. His aura was heavy, as if he had returned to his original state. However, a threatening sword light was faintly flashing in his eyes. It was Xian Hao, who had broken through to the life and death threshold. Oh my, after breaking through to the life and death threshold, Xian Hao's aura has become even more unfathomable. That's right. Just how strong is he now? Many people were discussing Xian Hao. After all, Xian Hao was now known as the #1 sword Dao expert among the younger generation. Yi Guqin, are you really dead? If so, I will be very disappointed. I have yet to return the humiliation you gave me. Xian Hao muttered in his heart. His only wish now was to fight with Yi Guqin again. However, it seemed that he would not have the chance to do so. Behind him, Xian Feng, Xian Dai and the others were also present. Subsequently, the people of the Saint Origin Academy arrived. Leading them was the Divine Palace expert, Lord Huntian. Behind him were Princess Yuan Shi, Mo Lengia, Fang Chen, and the others. Princess Yuan Shi was like a noble phoenix. She said with a hint of mockery, "Sigh, what a pity, Your Highness, what's a pity?" Mo Lengia asked. I feel that it's a pity that Yi Guqin died and didn't come. Otherwise, seeing the woman who liked him being forced to marry another man, that feeling must be very sullen. Queen Yuan Shi sighed. Her resentment towards Yi Guqin was not shallow. After all, during the exchange, Yiguchen had stepped all over them to get to the top. Humph. What's the point of mentioning a dead man? Not to mention that he's already dead, even if he's still alive, he's only at the divine soul realm. How could he defeat Zhou Tong, who's at the life and death chamber? Mo Langya shook his head in disdain. It's a pity that I won't be able to see Yiguchen's humiliated and hateful face, Princess Yuan, she said regretfully. After St. Origin Academy, the saber-conferred King Palace also arrived. Although today was the day of the Four-Sect Alliance, almost all forces, including Sword Sect and Tower Forest, were invited. The leader of the saber-conferred King Palace was still the royal saber Yu Bufan. Demonic saber Leng Ju, Demonic saber Nya Ling, and blood saber Mo Juechen were all present. On the contrary, Gu Zun, who had stepped into the great profound martial realm and was known as the #1 Blade Dao expert among the younger generation, did not come. The promise of 10 years is approaching. Wind Man Lu, now that your disciple Yiguchen has died, who else can you bring out to fight against my disciple, Gu Zun? Yu Bufan shook his head, feeling a little regretful. He would not be able to witness the final battle between Sword Sect and Saber Fanatic. Wind Manlu's only choice seemed to be Yan Wushuang. However, Yu Bufan was sure that if it was really Yan Wushuang, the outcome of the battle would be decided before it even started. Yan Wushuang was definitely not Gu Zun's match. Later, the 9 Profound Sect also arrived under the lead of the Azure Sun Sect Sect Master. Chen Yi, Bai Yanji, and the others were also present. However, the entire 9 Profound Sect wore a solemn expression. They were excluded like Sword Sect and Tower Forest. Right at this moment, a loud voice resounded. The 3 imperial palaces have arrived. As soon as the voice rang out, the entire arena fell silent. The main characters had finally arrived. The 3 imperial palaces were led by 2 people. One of them had fiery red hair and even his eyes were scarlet. He was one of the 3 sovereigns of the 3 imperial palaces, the Flame Emperor. Beside him stood a refined-looking middle-aged man with black hair and a long beard, just like a teacher in the secular world. However, the vigorous aura that faintly surged from his entire body caused others to raise their eyebrows. It's the spiritual emperor of the 3 imperial palaces. He's actually here. Of course. Zhou Tong is known as the Little Spiritual Emperor. He's the disciple of the Spiritual Emperor. As the master, how can he not come to Zhou Tong's wedding? Why do I feel that the Spiritual Emperor's aura is even stronger than the Flame Emperor's? I've heard that the strongest of the 3 imperial palaces is the War Emperor, followed by the Spiritual Emperor and the Flame Emperor. The Spiritual Emperor is likely stronger than ordinary divine dwelling stage experts. 2 emperors from the 3 imperial palaces have come. Their momentum is not weak. Many people clicked their tongues in admiration. Behind the Spiritual Emperor stood a handsome young master wearing a red wedding gown. It was Zhou Tong. At this moment, Zhou Tong was in high spirits with a smile hanging from the corners of his mouth. His handsome face had attracted countless girls. However, he was currently feeling very pleased with himself. The person that he had yearned for day and night was finally going to be his wife. Master, thank you for coming to this disciple's wedding, Zhou Tong said to the Spiritual Emperor. It's a small matter. Although you've broken through to the life and death threshold, you must not slack off. After you have a wife, you must also train diligently. The Spiritual Emperor still attached great importance to Zhou Tong. I'll follow Master's instructions, Zhou Tong said with a smile. Beside him, there was a figure wearing the 9 Darkness Radiant Dragon armor. He had a handsome face, but his expression was grave. Evidently, he was not in a good mood. This person was the Little War Emperor, Yang Haozang. The reason why he was in a bad mood was because of Zhou Tong's wedding. However, the beauty that he liked, LV Qinghan, had died in the ancient desolate forbidden zone. Big brother Yang, don't be sad. If there's an opportunity in the future, I'll definitely assist you in hunting down the 5 Crown King who killed LV Qinghan. Zhou Tong sighed as if it was a pity. However, no one would have thought that the one who killed Lv Qinghan was Zhou Tong. I understand. Thank you for your kind intentions, junior brother. The little war emperor nodded his head. His eyes were filled with cold hatred. 5-Crown King, since you dared to kill the person that I liked, you'll definitely fall under my overlord halberd in the future. The little war emperor swore in his heart. At this moment, a group of women arrived outside the arena. They were all beautiful women. The old woman leading them was Grandma Shichuan. The Consonant's divine palace had arrived. Chapter 606. As the host of this event, Consonant's palace naturally attracted a lot of attention. After 100-Flower Child had not appeared for a long time, Grandma Shichuan had gradually taken control of Consonant's palace. Consonant's palace has always remained neutral in the battle between the 7 factions. Why is it joining the 4-sect alliance now? Some people were puzzled. Right now, the true ruler of Consonant's palace is Grandma Shichuan. This should be her decision, many people whispered. A faint smile appeared on Grandma Shichuan's old face. Today, Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong would join the 4-sect alliance through marriage. Then, Grandma Shichuan would be able to use the 4-sect alliance's power to suppress the elders who opposed her and secure her position as palace master. 100-Flower Child, since you haven't appeared for a long time, I'll take over Consonant's palace. Grandma Shichuan was secretly pleased. Ren Tingting stood beside her with a cold expression. Today was Zhou Tong's wedding day, but the bride was not her. Zither Fairy wore a red dress and stood among the disciples of Consonant's palace. Her body was stiff like a puppet and there were traces of tears on her face. Ren Tingting had taught her a lesson over the past few days. Her face was pale and her body was weak. However, because of the rouge on her face, her pale cheeks were as beautiful as peaches and plums. Zither Fairy, you'd better behave yourself today. Otherwise, I guarantee that I'll make you wish you were dead. Grandma Shichuan secretly transmitted her voice to Zither Fairy. Zither Fairy's face was expressionless like a stiff puppet. Her body was like a piece of wood and her heart was like dead ashes. Her originally bright and beautiful eyes no longer had the slightest trace of life. Go. Grandma Shichuan waved her sleeve and Zither Fairy was sent to the wedding stage in the middle of the arena. Zhou Tong's eyes lit up when he saw this. He also stepped onto the stage. Although Sword Sect Ta Lin was invited, it seems that he won't be coming today. The wedding ceremony was about to begin, but Sword Sect Ta Lin was still not there. Although Sword Sect Ta Lin was in decline, if he didn't even dare to come, it would attract criticism. Feng Manlu, are you afraid? Xian Tai sneered inwardly. At this moment, a group of people walked into the arena. It was Sword Sect Ta Lin's group. The Sword Sect's talent actually came. What's the point of them coming? They can only witness the formation of the 4-sect alliance in vain. Could it be that Feng Manlu has recovered from his injuries? But even if he has recovered, he shouldn't be able to cause any trouble. After all, even the Spirit Emperor is here this time. Look at that Yen Wushuang. His aura is unstable. Indeed, he failed to break through the life and death threshold and suffered a backlash. The arrival of the Sword Sect's talent drew the attention and discussion of many people. After all, the current Sword Sect Pagoda Forest was at the heart of the storm. Feng Manlu was dressed in plain clothes. His hands were behind his back and his face was calm. It was like he didn't know that the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest was in trouble. Feng Manlu is indeed not weak. He was able to comprehend the human sword unite, cut off Xian Tai's arm with the cultivation of the spiritual bridge of heaven and earth, and even beat back Lord Tian Barbarian. The spiritual emperor raised his hand and stroked his beard. This Feng Manlu is indeed quite capable. However, now that the 4-sect alliance has been established, he alone will not be able to overturn the situation. The Yen Emperor said coldly. On the other side, Xian Tai's eyes were filled with coldness when he saw Feng Manlu's arrival. Feng Manlu, I will definitely pay you back for cutting off my arm. Xian Tai's face was cold. Behind Feng Manlu were Qing He, Gu Tua, Yan Wushuang, Ji Ling, Chu Qingqi, and Yi Xie. Yan Wushuang's face was pale and her footsteps were weak. She had tried to break through the life and death threshold by force and was injured. She would need some time to recover. Don't tell me there's nothing we can do to help Zither Fairy. Ji Ling looked at the expressionless Zither Fairy on the wedding stage. She couldn't help but sigh. We want to, but we can't. Chu Qingqi shook his head. Their relationship with Zither Fairy wasn't bad. However, they didn't have the ability to help her. If senior brother Yi is still here. Yi Xie wanted to say something but stopped. Everyone in the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest fell silent. Yan Wushuang bit her plump lips. Without Yi Guqin, the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest seemed to have lost its backbone. All the disciples of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest were dejected and unable to recover from the setback. Yan Wushuang couldn't help but recall that the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest had also fallen into a desperate situation during the Seven Great Forces exchange. In the end, Yi Guqin had appeared like a god. The words, "Please draw your sword for the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest," seemed to still ring in her ears. Yi Guqin, come back. Yan Wushuang screamed in her heart. Although the arrival of the Sword Sect Pagoda Forest had caused a lot of discussion, it didn't cause much of a stir. The Divine Palace experts of the major forces were all present. Feng Manlu alone couldn't change anything. On the wedding stage, Zhou Tong and Zither Fairy stood facing each other. The Master of Ceremonies was preparing for the ceremony. Zither Fairy, I can finally take you as my wife today. Zhou Tong's lips curled in joy. After many unexpected twists and turns, Zither Fairy had finally fallen into his hands. Zither Fairy's eyes were empty as if she had lost her soul. Zhou Tong, if you stop now, I might think more highly of you, Zither Fairy said numbly. Zhou Tong's smile froze. A deep coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Today is the day of our wedding. Are you still thinking about that person? Zhou Tong lowered his voice, seeming to be filled with unwillingness and coldness. Some things can't be changed. Zither Fairy seemed to think of something, and the corners of her mouth curved in a sweet smile. Scenes of Yi Guqin saving her appeared in her mind. Zither Fairy, do you know that Yi Guqin has never cared about you from the beginning to the end? Zhou Tong's face twisted a little. Maybe this is your destiny, Zither Fairy said absent-mindedly. Don't worry, Zither Fairy. As long as you marry me, I will make you change your mind. Zhou Tong took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in his heart. As long as he obtained Zither Fairy's body, how could he not obtain her heart? Moreover, Yi Guqin had most likely died in the ancient desolate forbidden zone. As time passed, Zither Fairy would eventually forget about Yi Guqin. Yi Guqin, the final victor will still be me. Zhou Tong sneered in his heart. First bow to the heavens and earth. Second bow to the parents. The MC began the ceremony. Finally, husband and wife bow to each other. Once this ceremony was over, Zither Fairy would become Zhou Tong's wife. No one would be able to change this status. Zither Fairy bit her lip until it bled. Her true qi had been sealed by Grandma Shichuan, so she couldn't even resist. Zhou Tong could no longer hide the smile on his face. When Yan Wushuang and the others saw this, they closed their eyes. The tens of thousands of people in the arena all held their breaths as they witnessed this scene. The moment Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong married would be the moment the four-sex alliance was established. At this moment, swoosh! A black light tore through the air, emitting a violent shriek. That black ray of light directly smashed onto the wedding stage. It smashed between Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong. Boom! A loud sound rang out, causing everyone to be shocked. When the dust settled, a pitch-black heavy sword smashed between the two of them. A huge crack spread out, as if the entire wedding stage had been split in half. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. The gazes of everyone present fell uniformly on the pitch-black heavy sword. On the sword sect's side, Yan Wushuang and the others' pupils constricted when they saw the heavy sword. He's back. Yan Wushuang covered her mouth with her jade-like hands as tears of excitement rolled down her cheeks. A figure slowly walked in from the entrance of the battle arena. His cold words, accompanied by his steady footsteps, resounded throughout the arena. "Zhou Tong, today, I will take your life with this sword." Chapter 607. As the voice spread out, the originally quiet arena seemed to have frozen in an instant. Not a single sound could be heard. Almost everyone's gaze fell on the figure that slowly stepped into the arena at the same time. That youth slowly raised his hand and took off the disguise on his face. A handsome face that carried incomparable coldness and killing intent appeared in everyone's eyes. Shock. Incomparable shock. All the martial artists' eyes were about to pop out. Some people even thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. They rubbed their eyes with all their might and looked again. That face still did not change. What did they see? Yi Guchen. Some warriors said in a trembling voice. Sword Master is back. How is this possible? He's actually still alive. What's going on? Following everyone's confirmation, the entire arena was in an uproar. It was as if the sky had been turned upside down. Yi Guchen, who had disappeared in the ancient desolate forbidden zone for a long time, had appeared once again. Moreover, the moment he appeared, he said that he wanted to take Zhou Tong's head. One had to know that his master, Spirit Emperor, was still here. Sword Master Yi is as powerful as ever. Many people felt their blood boil. It was fine if he did not return, but the moment he returned, he wanted to take someone's life. What a quick revenge. Impossible, absolutely impossible. In the stands, Shintu Zhan suddenly stood up and stared at Yi Guchen. Others might not know, but Shintu Zhan knew. After all, he had sent 4 life and death challenge realm elders from his family to sneak into the forbidden region of the desolate ancient forbidden region and kill Yi Guchen despite the fact that the whole world was in danger. How could Yi Guchen not die? How could he appear again? Ghost, am I seeing a ghost? Shintu Miao could not help but cry out. He also knew the inside story. Logically speaking, Yi Guchen should have died under the encirclement of 4 life and death threshold experts. However, the person who had appeared alive was not Yi Guchen. Who else could it be? Plop. Shintu Zhan sat down on the ground, as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. And now, Yi Guchen had reappeared, whereas the 4 elders had yet to return. In the beginning, Shintu Zhan thought that the 4 of them had not returned to avoid suspicion. Now that he thought about it, Shintu Zhan's body could not help but tremble. Could it be that the 4 elders are all dead? Shintu Zhan swallowed hard. He could not understand how Yi Guchen had managed to kill the 4 elders. Shintu Miao's face was also pale. As the father and son looked at each other, it was as if a thick dark cloud had enveloped the Shintu family. It would be fine if Yi Guchen was dead, but if he wasn't, Shintu Zhan suddenly felt regret. He regretted his decision to eliminate Yi Guchen. Just as the Shintu family was bitterly disappointed, over at the Gongsun family's side, Gongsun Xiaoya jumped 3 feet into the air. I didn't see wrongly, right? I really didn't see wrongly. Big brother Yi is back, and he is still as handsome as ever. Gongsun Xiaoya beamed from ear to ear, unable to contain her joy. That's great. Little friend Yi is back. If I ask for a few more letters from him, I will be able to break through to become a 5-star blacksmith master. Gongsun Yu was also jumping and laughing like an old urchin. Yi Guchen's return could be said to have caused some people to be happy, while others were sad. On the sword sect pagoda's side, Feng Manlu revealed a faint smile. Yan Wushuang, Ji Ling, and the rest were so excited that their eyes turned red. Senior Brother Yi, Senior Brother Yi. All the Sword Sect Pagoda's disciples shouted at the top of their lungs. It was as if they wanted to release all the grievances they had suffered during this period of time. Without Yi Guqin overseeing the Sword Sect Pagoda, everyone believed that the younger generation of the Sword Sect Pagoda was incapable. But now, Yi Guqin had returned. He had returned. He had conquered. All the voices of opposition would be suppressed by Yi Guqin alone. Yi Guqin alone could ensure that the Sword Sect Pagoda's younger generation would remain undefeated. At this moment, the disciples of the three imperial palaces, Saint Origin Academy and Limitless Sword Sect who mocked the Sword Sect Pagoda every day were all like cowards, not daring to make a sound. How is this possible? Princess Yuan Shi and the others, Leng Zhu, and the others, all those who had a grudge against Yi Guqin, had an extremely ugly expression on their faces. Yi Guqin's return was like a mountain pressing down on them. Of course, the most emotional people were the two people on the wedding stage. Zither Fairy's delicate body was trembling, and tears fell like a broken string of beads. She really couldn't hold it in anymore, and tears blurred her eyes. At the most desperate moment, there was always only one person who appeared in the end. Young Master Yi. Zither Fairy's heart trembled, and the delicate makeup on her cheeks was all smudged. Yi Guqin was like a beam of light that illuminated her lonely and desperate heart. Zither Fairy's bright eyes flickered with tears, as if she had recovered her vitality. On the contrary, Zhou Tong's handsome and calm face seemed to be unable to suppress his anger, and became twisted and ferocious. Yi Guqin, you're courting death. Zhou Tong's expression was terrifying, and his usual gentleness was nowhere to be seen. He was so furious that he almost couldn't hold back his pretense. Because Yi Guqin, again and again, had obstructed him. The one who will die today is you. Yi Guqin's voice was cold, like the edge of a blade. Very well, someone dared to threaten to take the life of my disciple in front of me. You're Yi Guqin of the Sword Sect. I don't know how strong you are, but your tone is boundlessly arrogant. Emperor Ling spoke, and a powerful aura covered the entire arena. Emperor Ling, what a powerful aura, yeah, Yi Guqin is really lawless. Not only did he return, he even dared to kill Emperor Ling's disciple in front of him. Some people secretly shook their heads. Yi Guqin's return had indeed shocked them. But so what? No matter how strong Yi Guqin was, he was still a member of the younger generation. Emperor Ling, on the other hand, was a veteran divine dwelling expert. Ordinary divine dwelling experts were no match for him. Emperor Ling, this brat has always been arrogant, and he has no respect for us divine dwelling experts. If it weren't for Feng Manlu's protection, he would have died long ago. Grandma Shichuan's voice was cold as she stared at Yi Guqin. Yi Guqin's appearance had ruined Zither Fairy and Zhou Tong's marriage. As a result, the matter of the four-sect alliance had been delayed. How could Grandma Shichuan not hate Yi Guqin? Yi Guqin's cold eyes swept across Grandma Shichuan. He knew that Grandma Shichuan had forced Zither Fairy to marry Zhou Tong. Old witch, you can't even save your own life today, so why do you care about me? Yi Guqin sneered. Grandma Shichuan had eliminated her dissidents, tried to seize power, joined the four-sect alliance, and even forced Zither Fairy to marry Zhou Tong. Given Baihua's protective nature, how could they let Grandma Shichuan off? But the crowd did not know this. They were all dumbfounded and thought that Yi Guqin had gone crazy. It was one thing to target people of the same generation, but he had dared to target a divine dwelling expert. Little bastard, you're courting death. Grandma Shichuan's face fell and her face was filled with hatred. She could not help but attack. If anyone dares to attack Yi Guqin, they'll have to ask my divine wind sword first. Feng Manlu stepped into the void and a sword shadow spread out from his body. It merged into the void and emitted sharp sword chi. Grandma Shichuan's face twitched and a look of fear appeared on her face. She was just an ordinary divine dwelling expert, while Feng Manlu had the strength to fight against the barbarian race's King Tian. But at this moment, everyone knew that Yi Guqin would continue to be so arrogant. Even Feng Manlu would not be able to protect Yi Guqin. Disciple, do you want me to kill this madman? Spiritual Emperor asked coldly. A cold light flashed in Feng Manlu's empty eyes. After a short period of calming down, Zhou Tong's ferocious expression faded. He took a deep breath and tried his best to remain calm. There's no need. Master, I've already broken through to the life and death chamber. If I still can't deal with Yi Guqin, then I'm useless. Zhou Tong suddenly understood something. He was now a life and death chamber expert. And Yi Guqin had not obtained the life and death intent in the desolate ancient battle arena. He was at most in the 9 transformations. Wouldn't that be an easy victory? Zither Fairy, today, I'll kill Yi Guqin in front of you. Yi Guqin, do you dare to fight me alone? No one else is allowed to interfere. Life and death are not allowed. Zhou Tong's cold voice echoed in all directions. Sigh. Yi Guqin sighed. There were thousands of paths. But Zhou Tong had chosen the most courting death. An expert who had broken through to the small divine dwelling realm with the life and death intent? Sorry. Yi Guqin did not put him in his eyes. Chapter 608. Life and Death Chamber and Divine Soul 9 Transformations. It might seem like a small gap, but the difference between their strength was like heaven and earth. It was also very difficult to break through. After all, Yan Wushuang had spent so much effort to break through, but still failed. Perhaps 10 out of 100 ordinary martial artists could reach the Divine Soul 9 transformations. But perhaps only 1 out of 100 could reach the Life and Death Chamber. This was enough to show the difference between the two realms. It was also because of this that Gu Zun, Xian Hao, Yang Haocang, and Zhou Tong, these 4 geniuses who had reached the Life and Death Chamber, could rise up and dominate their peers. Although the other geniuses were not weak, they could not compete with them. At this moment, hearing that Zhou Tong wanted to challenge Yi Guqin alone, the gazes of the entire martial arts arena converged on them. To be honest, this was already bullying. There was no comparison between the realms of the two. Oh, Yi Guqin, aren't you arrogant? Now that I've reached the Life and Death Chamber, you don't dare to fight with me. Hearing Yi Guqin's sigh, Zhou Tong revealed a happy smile. This was the effect he wanted. He wanted Zither Fairy to see Yi Guqin's weakness. If he did not dare to fight, his invincible image in Zither Fairy's heart would naturally collapse. But if he fought, Zhou Tong was confident that he could easily crush Yi Guqin. Either result was what Zhou Tong wanted to see. As expected, Yi Guqin gave in and stopped talking. Princess Yuan, she covered her mouth with her hand and sneered. That Yi Guqin can only fight in the same realm. Does he dare to challenge someone of a higher realm? Mo Langia smiled disdainfully. Yi Guqin's attitude also caused a lot of discussion. Didn't Yi Guqin kill a Life and Death Chamber expert before? Why doesn't he dare to fight now? Who knows if there are any hidden secrets behind the killing of the Life and Death Chamber? I've always felt that it's almost impossible to challenge someone of a higher realm, let alone kill one. Many people whispered to each other. Sigh, this Yi Guqin is really overestimating himself. Young Master Zhou will torture Yi Guqin to death like a dead dog. Zither Fairy, is this the person you yearn for? What a joke. Ren Tingting's lips curled into a mocking smile. She couldn't wait to see Yi Guqin being tortured to death. Presumably, this would make Zither Fairy very uncomfortable. Yi Guqin, do you really not dare? If so, you have disappointed me. Xian Hao looked deeply at Yi Guqin and shook his head slightly. To be honest, when Yi Guqin appeared, Xian Hao was very happy. Because he finally had a chance to avenge his humiliation. However, even Yi Guqin did not dare to act against Zhou Tong. Thus, there was no need for him to fight against Yi Guqin. That would only be an insult to him. This Senior brother, you won't be afraid to accept the challenge, right? On Sword Sect Tower's side, the cheering disciples fell silent. Yan Wushuang, Ji Ling, and the others' expressions were not good. Yi Guqin had always been creating miracles. However, this time, Yi Guqin was not facing an existence of the same realm, but an existence of a higher realm. This was not something that could be compensated with ordinary means. Yi Guqin, don't be rash. Yan Wushuang couldn't help but shout. Although she also wanted Yi Guqin to avenge Sword Sect Tower's people. However, it was indeed very difficult for a divine soul realm cultivator to challenge a life and death threshold. Moreover, Zhou Tong still had the intention to kill. If he wasn't careful, Yi Guqin might die. Yan Wushuang wanted Yi Guqin to temporarily hide. When Yi Guqin also broke through to the life and death threshold, he would naturally not be afraid of Zhou Tong and the others. Heh. Yi Guqin looked at Yan Wushuang and shook his head. He knew that Yan Wushuang was worried about his life. However, to be honest, he did not put Zhou Tong in his eyes. It was not challenging at all. This Zhou Tong was even weaker than Tuoba Shang, who was at the life and death threshold. Before Yi Guqin broke through to 1-star Ancient God, he could defeat Tuoba Shang at the life and death threshold. Not to mention now. Yi Guqin, weren't you very arrogant? Now you finally know how to be a coward. Zhou Tong sneered. I think you misunderstood, Yi Guqin said indifferently. What do you mean? Zhou Tong's gaze focused. That sigh of mine was not for myself, but for you. For me. Zhou Tong frowned. I'm sighing because you're seeking your own death. Yi Guqin said calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire battle arena became deathly silent. Then it completely exploded. Arrogant, truly arrogant. As expected of Sword Sect Yi. What he means is that Zhou Tong is seeking his own death by going against him. What kind of confidence does a 9th transformation divine soul have to say such words? The entire battle arena was in an uproar. Some people sighed in admiration of Yi Guqin. He was the epitome of arrogance. However, there were even more people who looked at him with disdain and shook their heads. Some life and death threshold experts even scolded in disdain, this Yi Guqin doesn't understand life and death threshold experts. How dare he spout such nonsense? Zhou Tong was so angry that he laughed and said, good, good, good. Yi Guqin, I want to see how I'm seeking my own death. Zhou Tong's aura erupted and a pair of wings made of true qi spread out from his back. Without a doubt, he was at the life and death threshold. One sword is enough to kill you. Yi Guqin shook his head slightly. He grasped the air with one hand and the Xianming heavy sword on the stage flew back into his hand. One sword. Hearing Yi Guqin's words, everyone was speechless. They didn't even bother to mock him. Do you think you're a prime sovereign who can drag a blade for 3,000 miles and sever the threshold in one move? Zhou Tong sneered and didn't say anything else. Vigorous true qi surged from his body and an incomparably terrifying move was brewing between his palms. Since my disciple has used this move, it seems like he can end the battle in one move. Ling Huang nodded with satisfaction. He could feel the terrifying true qi that Zhou Tong was emitting. Yan Wushuang, Ji Ling, and the others paled. This wasn't a power that a divine soul realm expert could withstand. Even Xian Hao's gaze turned solemn. Although his strength was above Zhou Tong's, this move of Zhou Tong's, it was also very difficult for him to block it. He would suffer considerable injuries. Yi Guqin, do you have any last words? Feeling the power of his move, Zhou Tong could already see Yi Guqin falling at his hands. Yi Guqin shook his head and didn't say anything else. With a loud bang, the soul-devouring secret technique was released. Yi Guqin's aura rose. With another loud bang, Yi Guqin's figure grew taller. Ancient runes flowed on the surface of his body and an ancient god star mark appeared between his eyebrows. Just by relying on his 1-star ancient god form, Yi Guqin could contend with the life and death threshold. Boom! With another explosion, the power of the 5 totems in Yiguchen's body strengthened his sword. Boom! With another loud bang, the Ashura sword intent spread out from Yiguchen's body. The 18 layers of the Ashura blood sea spread out. Compared to before, the illusory sword domain seemed to have become more solid. This also meant that Yiguchen's Ashura sword intent was about to transform into the Ashura sword Dao. Finally, Yiguchen slowly raised the Xianming heavy sword in his hand. A terrifying sword chi that shocked everyone spread out, as if it was going to annihilate all living things. Myriad God Tribulation. Life Fall. With a sword across the sky, the heavens cried and all life fell. Chapter 609. That sword could not be described with words. It was as if heaven and earth were falling apart, and all living things were falling. As the sword momentum spread out, a terrifying aura of tragedy, killing, and blood surged in all directions. Is this really the power of a divine soul realm expert? When the sword swept across the sky, everyone's face froze, and they all thought the same thing. How could they know that Yiguchen, with the power of a 1-star ancient god, was comparable to a life and death realm expert? Not to mention the 5-colored totem power, the soul-devouring secret skill, and so on. And most importantly, the second move of 10,000 God Tribulation. This was Yiguchen's trump card. He rarely used it, but its power would definitely shock everyone. No, I don't believe it. Zhou Tong could no longer maintain his indifference. This feeling was like a moment ago, when Yiguchen was just an ant that could be crushed at any time. But the next moment, he had become an awakened and roaring lion. The contrast was too great. 9 levels of the spirit path. Zhou Tong did not hold back. His genuine qi surged out, and waves of spiritual qi surged out from his hands. Each wave was enough to easily kill an expert in the 9 changes of the divine soul realm. Moreover, this was the superposition of the 9 levels of spirit tide, which was extremely powerful. His genuine qi swept out like a raging tsunami. Finally, the superposition of the 9 levels of genuine qi erupted into a terrifying wave of spiritual qi that seemed to be able to drown everything. This was the trump card that Emperor Ling had taught Zhou Tong. Zhou Tong had wanted to kill Yiguchen with one move and establish his supreme reputation. But now, facing the sword that seemed to be able to destroy everything, Zhou Tong could no longer maintain his calm face. He was horrified. Boom! A terrifying collision broke out. Ripples of sword qi and genuine qi swept out in all directions. Just the aftermath alone made some divine soul realm geniuses feel suffocated. But what made everyone more shocked was that Yiguchen's sword was like a reef breaking the waves, directly tearing apart the 9 levels of spirit tide. The terrifying sword qi of Yiguchen's sword directly cut through Zhou Tong's move and went straight for him. This is impossible. Feeling the terrifying sword qi, Zhou Tong's face twisted slightly. He was a top heaven's pride who had broken through to life and death chamber. There were only a few people like him in the entire Saint Origin dynasty. Moreover, he had displayed the 9 heavens of the spirit path. He knew that no divine soul realm martial artist could withstand this move of his. But not only did Yiguchen accept the challenge. Furthermore, he had to kill him instead. When the nearby Ling Emperor saw this, the indifferent and cold expression on his face suddenly changed. He didn't believe that his disciple would be defeated by a genius in the divine soul realm. Damn it, Yiguchen, I want you to die, 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 die. Zhou Tong's face twisted. The extreme humiliation nearly caused him to lose all reason. The only thing left in his mind was to kill Yiguchen. At this critical juncture, Zhou Tong directly took out a jade talisman and crushed it. A terrifying wave of true qi poured out. The vigorous fluctuation was almost several times stronger than the move Zhou Tong had just displayed. Yiguchen's sword qi was directly broken by the wave of true qi. What is that? Is that a jade talisman refined by Ling Emperor to protect Zhou Tong? Seeing Zhou Tong take out such a move, the tens of thousands of people in the arena were stunned. Some experts would refine some of their moves in various jade talismans and bestow them to their disciples and juniors as a means of protection. Obviously, the jade talisman Zhou Tong had taken out was such a thing. But what was it? It was a jade talisman refined by Ling Emperor, who was considered an upper-level existence even among divine-dwelling experts. The power of the jade talisman refined by him was terrifying. How shameless! The faces of Yan Wushuang and the other disciples of the sword sect immediately turned ugly. They did not expect Yi Guqin to be able to destroy Zhou Tong's move with a single move, nor did they expect Zhou Tong to be so shameless as to use such a move. Yi Guqin, so what if you're strong? You're still going to die. Zhou Tong's face was filled with madness. He did not care about face or reputation. It was fine as long as Yi Guqin died. This move of Zhou Tong's caught everyone off guard. Even Feng Manlu was unable to stop it in time. Is the sword sect going to fall like this? Everyone had the same thought in their hearts. No. Zither Fairy sobbed, her beautiful eyes red. Yi Guqin's figure rapidly retreated in the face of the true Qi wave. Reincarnation Sword Lotus. Yi Guqin took out his first defensive move. Golden Sword Qi transformed into a dazzling lotus flower that enveloped his body. The Reincarnation Sword Lotus was a killing move as well as a defensive move. Yi Guqin hid in the Sword Lotus and could defend himself from external attacks. Moreover, Yi Guqin had cultivated the Reincarnation Sword Lotus to the 36-leaf stage. It was much stronger than when he was at the 18-leaf stage. Soon after, Yi Guqin brought out the Heavenly Demon General armor again from the Sword Lotus. This supreme-grade defensive mystic inscription's divine weapon wrapped around Yi Guqin's body. Boom! The destructive wave instantly drowned Yi Guqin's figure. The originally clamorous martial arena became incomparably deathly silent, the terrifying true Qi wave sent chills down everyone's spine. Even the life and death Mystic Gates experts felt suffocated. They knew they would not be able to survive if they were drowned by the true Qi wave. This move could even kill a life and death Mystic Gate expert. Ha! Ha! Yi Guqin, have a safe journey to the Yellow Springs. Zhou Tong laughed maniacally. He had never lost his composure like this before. No. The Zither Fairy fell to her knees weakly as though she had lost her soul. Yi Guqin had returned. Moreover, he had destroyed Zhou Tong's ultimate technique with a single sword strike. He had let everyone know. Yi Guqin was still the peerless sword sect master. However, who would have thought Zhou Tong would resort to such means? This was no longer a fair battle to the death. Instead, it was a victory won through despicable means. Senior Brother Yi. The disciples of the Sword Sect's pagoda cried out in shock. Yan Wushuang's face was pale. The Sword Sect master had returned. Was he going to die just like that? He managed to break through the 9th heaven of the spirit path with his divine soul realm cultivation base. This Yi Guqin. Ling Huang's expression froze slightly. Yi Guqin had exceeded his expectations. However, that was all there was to it. He still died in the end. Although Zhou Tong had an unfair advantage, he was still Ling Huang's disciple. In the center of the dueling ground, the true Qi wave slowly spread out. Some of the martial artists present sighed. They could not bear to see Yi Guqin's mangled corpse. Some of the disciples of the Sword Sect's pagoda closed their eyes in despair. However, Zhou Tong, it's you who's going to the Yellow Springs today. A cold and indifferent voice slowly spread out from the dust. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire world seemed to fall silent. Zhou Tong, who had been smiling all this time, suddenly froze. Zither Fairy, Yan Wushuang, Ji Ling, the disciples of the Sword Sect's pagoda, and everyone else slowly opened their eyes wide as they watched the dust disperse. A figure covered in ferocious blood armor appeared before everyone's eyes. That's 5 Crown King. A genius who had participated in the forbidden zone of the ancient desolate was dumbfounded. He could not believe his eyes. Chapter 610. What was the most shocking thing in the ancient desolate forbidden zone? Naturally, it was the appearance of the mysterious Five-Crown King. Although Five-Crown King controlled the power of the 5 primogenitor totems, he did not side with the barbarian tribe. In the end, he even brought out a supreme sword formation to compete with Tuoba Shang's heavenly barbarian slaughtering formation. It could be said that some of the geniuses were grateful to the mysterious Five-Crown King. If not for him, they might have lost their lives. However, following the conclusion of the desolate ancient battle ring, that Five-Crown King seemed to have disappeared without a trace. At this moment, all the Skypride's gazes were glued to the figure clad in a ferocious-looking armor. That's Five-Crown King. That's right, it's Five-Crown King. Five-Crown King was wearing the same armor that day. But, that's the Sword Sect. How could it be Five-Crown King? Doubt, sluggishness, astonishment, puzzlement, and stupefaction. A series of expressions appeared on the faces of the prodigies who had seen Five-Crown King with their own eyes. Even Yan Wushuang and the others had an extremely shocked expression on their faces. What is going on? Yi Guqin. Five-Crown King. How is this possible? Yan Wushuang's exquisite face was also stunned. She was filled with confusion and disbelief. However, she instantly thought of many things. In the valley, the crimson-armored figure had acted without any reason and saved them from danger. In the ancient desolate arena, he had even helped the 7 factions fight against Tuoba Shang. They had guessed that if Five-Crown King did not have the power of a totem, they would have thought that it was Yi Guqin. Now, it seemed that the truth was clear. So, it was you all along. Yan Wushuang covered her red lips with her hand. Five-Crown King had turned the tide at the critical moment and saved the lives of the prodigies from the 7 factions. At that time, Yan Wushuang had admired him. He was the second person besides Yi Guqin that she sincerely admired. However, Yan Wushuang would never have thought that Yi Guqin was Five-Crown King. For a moment, Yan Wushuang looked at Yi Guqin in a different light. What's going on? Ren Tingting, Princess Yuan Shi, Ling Ju, and the others were all stunned. For a moment, they couldn't wrap their heads around it. Sword Sect. Five-Crown King. Wasn't the difference a little too great? Even the Zither Fairy was surprised by this. She immediately thought of the matter of Five-Crown King torturing LV Qinghan to death. However, the intelligent Zither Fairy immediately understood. This news was spread by Zhou Tong, so there was definitely some inside information. No one expected Yi Guqin to be able to control the power of the primogenitor totem and become the Pentacrown King. On the battlefield, Yi Guqin was alone. Blood dripped from the gaps in his armor. Although Yi Guqin had managed to survive with the help of the reincarnation sword Lotus and the demonic general armor, he had suffered considerable injuries. After all, that jade talisman was refined by a spirit emperor, and its strength could even kill ordinary life and death chamber experts. The reason Yi Guqin could withstand it, apart from the 2 layers of protection, was that his ancient god body was extremely tough and could withstand a large amount of damage. At the same time, Yi Guqin's ancient god heart throbbed. Drops of ancient god blood flowed out, nourishing Yi Guqin's injured body. Zhou Tong, if it weren't for that jade talisman, you would have already stepped onto the road to the Yellow Springs. Yi Guqin held the Xianming heavy sword, his voice as cold as water. Zhou Tong looked at Yi Guqin, who was wearing the demonic general armor, and his expression was indescribable. There was surprise, shock, and confusion. How is this possible? How can he be the Five-Crown King? How can he withstand the jade talisman's attack and not die? Zhou Tong's heart was filled with extreme anger. Yi Guqin had refreshed his understanding time and time again. All the martial artists present were silent. Indeed, If Zhou Tong didn't have the jade talisman, he would have already died under Yi Guqin's sword. A divine soul realm martial artist actually had the strength to kill a life-and-death threshold expert in one move. This made everyone sigh in their hearts. However, compared to this, what shocked them even more was the identity Yi Guqin had revealed. 5 Crown King. This identity was too sensitive. Although 5 Crown King had saved the geniuses of the 7 factions in the desolate ancient arena, he still had the ancestral totem. But after all, he had the power of the ancestral totem, so he was definitely related to the barbarian tribe. Zhou Tong seemed to have also thought of this point, and a trace of bitter coldness appeared at the corners of his mouth. He had always been good at scheming. Now that Yi Guqin had taken the initiative to reveal 5 Crown King's identity, Zhou Tong could use it against him. Yi Guqin, do you think 5 Crown King's identity is good for you? Those who are not of my race will definitely have different intentions. Watch how I play you to death today. Zhou Tong's heart was cold. He then coldly reprimanded, Yi Guqin, I also didn't expect you to be 5 Crown King, a spy of the barbarian race. The word spy of the barbarian race caused the noisy arena to fall completely silent. At this critical juncture of the intense battle between the 7 factions and the barbarian race, Zhou Tong's words could not be ignored. Everyone, I feel that there is no need to compete now. Sword sect Talon is a dignified sword sect, and yet he has the ancestral totem. Who would believe this? Therefore, I think that Yi Guqin is very likely a member of the barbarian race. Otherwise, how could he have the ancestral totem? Therefore, I say that Yi Guqin must be a spy of the barbarian race, a spy. Zhou Tong coldly said, his voice resounding everywhere. The moment these words came out, many people's expressions changed. On Sword Sect Talon's side, the expressions of Qing He and the other elders also changed. Zhou Tong's words were malicious. Zhou Tong, do you have any shame? You are slandering others. If not for Yi Guqin saving us in the desolate ancient arena, would you still be able to speak here today? Moreover, at that time, you were the one who was willing to kneel before Tuo Bashang. Now, you are slandering Yi Guqin. Yan Wushuang could no longer hold back and angrily rebuked. She had seen shameless people, but she had never seen such a shameless person. Zhou Tong was afraid of death and knelt before Tuo Bashang. On the other hand, Yi Guqin, who had turned into 5 Crown King, fought with Tuo Bashang. Yan Wushuang's words immediately attracted the agreement of some geniuses. They also looked at Yi Guqin with gratitude. When Zhou Tong heard this, his face twitched slightly. That was indeed a humiliation that he could not erase. However, soon after, Zhou Tong coldly laughed and said, putting aside the fact that Yi Guqin is a spy of the barbarian race, I personally saw the blood-armored figure killing LV Qinghan. Isn't that the blood-armored figure 5 Crown King? After Zhou Tong's words, the little war emperor, Yang Haotsong, immediately reacted and his eyes turned red. Yi Guqin, hand over your life for LV Qinghan. The little war emperor could no longer bear it. The woman he valued was actually killed by 5 Crown King. And now, Yi Guqin was 5 Crown King. Naturally, it was self-explanatory. Unlike Zither Fairy, the little war emperor trusted Zhou Tong. Since Zhou Tong had seen it with his own eyes, then it must be true. Boom! The little war emperor was also a genius who had broken through to the life and death chamber. His attack was extraordinary. The overlord halberd swept across the sky and tore through the air, aiming at Yi Guqin. Yi Guqin did not move and stood there calmly. Just when Yan Wushuang and the others could no longer bear it and attacked. A figure with an eagle's wings on his back flew over from the distant sky. A pitch-black longsword was unsheathed and collided with the little war emperor's overlord halberd. With a clang, powerful Zhenqi shot out. The little war emperor was actually forced back a few steps. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at the person who had landed beside Yi Guqin. Today, no one can disturb him. You are no exception. A black-clothed youth with a cold expression stood opposite the little war emperor with Mo Kuang in his hand. It was Su Moyan. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.